What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
12 Shish. Chapter 276 Celestial Dragons Flying. You are so bold, so bold. Dakin spittle, looking at Chen and Luffy standing in front of him, his eyes are full of endless anger. Seeing our celestial dragons, how dare you not kneel? 5. Chen and Luffy in his eyes did not panic at all. Even Luffy's face rarely became as calm and heavy as Chen's. Hey, what's your name? Luffy grabbed the straw hat on his head, tilted his head to look at Dakin, thought for a while, but didn't think of his name. Just give up. Hey, are you mistaken? I'm Celestial Dragons Dakin, Celestial Dragons. 99. Seeing Luffy's unconcerned expression, Dakin felt that his dignity as Celestial Dragons was being trampled on. Celestial Dragons. What is that? Is it edible? Luffy buttoned. 130, and looked at Dakin with slanted eyes. Hey, did you know that the Uncle Murloc you injured just now is a good man? Quote? Dakin looked dazed. He didn't understand a little, what exactly did the Fishman King do, and he would be regarded as a good person by this group of unruly guys in front of him. Luffy shook his head helplessly. I said, do you know how much barbecue this uncle invited us to eat just now? Quote? Dakin didn't know what to say. FK. Just invite you to eat some meat and become a good person. Unfortunately, Luffy doesn't care about him anymore. Chen, use that eye of yours, the red one, take a picture of him. Luffy said impatiently, let him go wherever he came from. Chen nodded. Facing Celestial Dragons, seeing the arrogance and domineering of Celestial Dragons really made him feel very uncomfortable. If not for the fear of the 5 elders, marine and hidden power behind Celestial Dragons. He has now directly twisted Dakin IX's neck. But now, Chen released the Mangekyo Sharingan, which directly plunged the Celestial Dragons into a huge illusion. Go away. 55. Good. Just now, Dakin, who was still aloof, with a displeased expression on his face, beating and scolding the Fishmen Island to destroy the whole of the Fishmen Island, obediently turned his head and rushed into the sea. And his followers followed without hesitation. Robin on the side was curious when he saw celestial dragons like this. Chen, what kind of world did you give him? Certainly a happy world. Chen shrugged. The celestial dragons in the distance have stripped themselves of white fish. Ah, sea, ah, sunshine, ah, rain and dew. I am a little fish in the sea, I want to swim in the sea to the fullest. Seeing Dakin, who was transformed into a red-fruited fish, the fish people showed a trace of happiness and doubts on their faces. The celestial dragons. Is your brain sick, father? When everyone turned back, they saw a huge mermaid appeared beside the man and the king. Why say 2 giants? Because a huge, really Kabuto doesn't lie. Even the old driver Chen, who had a heart like Shisui and read countless films, looked back and saw a dazzling white, almost thought he had snow blindness. After a long distance, he could see the whole picture of the other party clearly. This is a huge pink mermaid. Although she has the same whale blood as the Mermaid King, her scales are pink. It looks very cute. It's like a chubby plus chubby goldfish. Don't ask why you use 2 chubby balls. Same as the previous 2 huge ones. Thank you for saving my father. Shirahoshi saw the straw hats and hurriedly thanked his father. Chen shook his head. He was still too late. It can only be considered revenge, not rescue. The Mermaid King is fine. He completely relies on his own physical strength to resist the impact of bullets with his muscles. But even so, the Mermaid King's face was also pale, obviously he used a lot of strength to resist this blow. Everyone, the banquet is not over yet, why don't you go back and have a drink? The Murloc King invited and said, in 2 days, the concert of the legendary music superstar, the King of Souls will be held. 35. His concert is yearning for hundreds of millions of people, and it is hard to get a ticket. The Mermaid King smiled. But don't worry, as long as you want to listen, follow me in, and you will be able to sit next to me in the seat specially prepared for the king. Tall and spacious. Forehead. Strange emotions flashed across everyone's faces. They shook their heads one after another. It doesn't matter, you can go by yourself, king, we have other ways. How is this possible? The Mermaid King widened his eyes. You are my benefactors, how can I let you? The voice came to an abrupt end. He stared blankly at the concert tickets in Chen's hand and took a deep breath. Is this the top concert ticket for the King of Souls? It is said that they are all designed and produced by the King of Souls. Not only is the location better than mine, but they can even get in touch with the King of Souls up close. Even if you buy them outside, you can't buy them. 39. Looking at Chen, there was a hint of envy in his eyes. But okay, as a king, his adjustment speed is still very fast. In just a short time, he put away his complicated emotions. It's okay. Without one, he can still win over others. Excuse me. As soon as the voice came out, a stack of concert tickets appeared in front of the Mermaid King. These tickets are the same. The Mermaid King swallowed hard. In the Straw Hat Pirates, everyone has a concert ticket. This, outrageous. The Mermaid King looked sad. The others laughed. Only now did they know how valuable the tickets Brook gave them were. Let's go and see. Curiosity flashed in everyone's eyes. After all, For Brook, it is still a particularly difficult thing for him to become a powerful singer in 2 years. If you change to someone else, ask the other party to give up such a big and hard-earned fan. I'm afraid not many people want to. Soon. Among the Fishmen Island. The concert has started. The fishmen of the whole the Fishmen Island are in the concert. As far as Lu Chen saw, these lights, ice, smoke, flashes, etc., were all released from spells. Even Brook also learned the kind of Bone King before starting to sing, stacking dozens of layers of armor on himself. However, these magics also have a lot to do with Brook being able to become the King of Souls. Although it is not a charcoal in the snow, it is also icing on the cake. Buddies. Lu Chen suddenly spoke. Chapter 277 Depressed Caribou. Guys, here they come. Brook was delighted to be on stage. He sang harder and harder. And in the dark, the manager of the double-jointed family, looking at the crowd, cheered on the voice of Brook on the stage. A look of dissatisfaction flashed in his eyes. It's these people who are going to take their cash cows away. He waved his hand to his subordinates and gave some secret orders, promising, kill all those people, I will allow you to get 1% of the shares. Yes, the other party responded and left quietly. In a corner that the Straw Hats didn't expect, a person followed the shadow of the Straw Hat pirate ship and quickly walked outside. This man had black hair and smelled like a swamp all over his body. His eyes were a little gloomy and low, and he liked to fiddle with his tongue. He looked at the Brook concert in the distance, but smiled. Straw Hat Pirates, where is my caribou smart? I fell a little. 35. He turned into a pool of mud, quickly lurking in the shadows, and swallowed one thing after another into his body. It's just that there seems to be no end in his mud. It seemed that no matter how much he swallowed, he couldn't fill it up. And he also quickly approached Brook's concert. He could feel the breath of the Straw Hat Pirates. And what he wants is very simple. Find Lu Chen with the highest bounty with your own mud fruit, and put him directly in the mud space. The space in his muddy fruit is like a natural prison, as long as you go in, even Whitebeard and the others have a way to escape. And he, Caribou, just give that Lu Chen to Marine in exchange for a super big Bailey reward. Then build your own boat. B*************************** D, let you lead Marine over on Bubble Island, so that all my crew and ship were detained by Marine. This time, I can only get everything from you. Bring it to you. Caribou roared, setting off a huge wave of mud. This wave covers the sky. Lu Chen was about to be swallowed in front of him. But a group of people came. This group of multi-jointed people hurriedly walked behind Lu Chen and the others, and shouted, the guy over there, are you going to take Brook? His position was just stuck between Caribou and Lu Chen. Caribou swooped down. This group of multi-jointed people was swallowed into the muddy space in an instant. Just at this time, the people of the Straw Hat Pirates turned around one after another, with a bad tone. That's right, you want to, Nami looked a little strange behind the empty one. Am I hallucinating? I just heard that someone is going to trouble us. Maybe it's an illusion. Lu Chen looked at the empty darkness behind him, and thought for a moment, could it be that I haven't had enough sleep recently, and I've started to have auditory hallucinations? Come and sing along. Brook, this guy is amazing. Luffy laughed. The crowd ignored it and focused on the stage. This is the concert where their companions left their dreams and went to the new world with them. They will never disappoint each other. Caribou looked shocked. He felt a fly stuck in his throat and couldn't swallow or spit it out. What the hell did I just swallow? Damn, they're all useless guys. 35. Caribou rested for a while, not giving up. He turned into a muddy fruit again, moving fast in the shadows like a swamp. When he came to the back of the Straw Hat Pirates, he brewed his emotions for a while. Again, B**************************** D, let you lead Marine over on Bubble Island, so that all my crew and ship were detained by Marine. This time, I can only get everything from you. Bring it to you. Caribou roared for the second time, setting off a huge mud wave for the second time. For the second time, the wave overwhelmed the sky. The second time, Lu Chen had to be swallowed. Just then, another group of people came. This is the Celestial Dragons, Dak and Ix, who was bewitched by Lu Chen Sharingan during the day. Because of the normal Sharingan environment, the Celestial Dragons woke up in the afternoon. When he found himself swimming freely in the sea like a peeled banana, he almost went crazy. He is bound to wash away his shame. And the best way to wash is to use the blood of the enemy. As Celestial Dragons, isn't it easy to find someone's location? Lowly pirate, die for me. Dakin took out his pistol and aimed at Lu Chen's back, and let out a roar of vengeance. Only a shadow fell. No sound again. Everyone in the Straw Hats turned their heads in unison with question marks on their faces. Zoro scratched his ears. Strange, I seem to hear someone call us lowly pirates and want us to die. 35. Don't talk about you, I heard it too. Sanji was smoking a cigarette, his face slightly solemn. The voice is a little familiar, but unfortunately I forgot to hear it somewhere. He paused, and his eyes immediately released countless hearts. Hey. It's definitely not a girl's voice. If it were a girl's voice, I would be able to distinguish it right away. 99. What are you doing? While dancing frantically with the flash stick in his hand, Nami shouted, come and cheer for Brook together. The song he just sang is so good. 39. Zoro looked disdainful, bit a cheering stick in his mouth, and held the two cheering sticks in his hand like a pair of knives, let's just show you what is an invincible support. 3 swords, endless Shira, support version. Oh ho ho ho, your cheer sticks are absolutely not as cool. Franky laughed, showing off his specially modified arms. Super, cheering stick. Wow, so cool. 35 feet. Usopp and Chopper spot on Star Eye. Robin sat calmly and drank a cup of tea, waving between his hands. The Sky stretched out his hands, each holding a cheering stick. Neat and tidy. Wow, Luffy was envious too. The other side. Caribou. 39. Ouch, I swallowed something again. Caribou looked at the strange things in his body, and the expression on his face became extremely strange. That red-eyed Lu Chen is too strong. He even expected my 2 sneak attacks. It seems that it's not that easy for me to capture him. Caribou let out a sigh. Without enough bounty, how can he rebuild a ship and find some pirates to go to the New World with him? Suffering. Chapter 278 The Disappearing Shirahoshi. Just at this time, he saw a beautiful mermaid face reflected under the light in the distance. The pink scales, the huge body and the huge sphere are all eye-catching. Even someone like Caribou who likes unusual people can't help but be attracted by the other person's temperament. In the next second, he suddenly had an idea. Great, if this mermaid can be captured and put in the slave auction, he will definitely be able to win a lot of money. He smiled. Murlocs themselves are rare, not to mention beautiful female murlocs. Even celestial dragons will have some different ideas when facing some beautiful murlocs. And this huge mermaid in front of me, whether it is stature, temperament, or appearance, is the best. If she can be caught, even celestial dragons can't help buying it. But he will choose to auction. I believe that in the face of such a rare and beautiful murloc, celestial dragons will never be stingy with Bailey. New ship. No. He's going to create a fleet. Just a little bit, it's time for my Caribou to get rich. The mud fruit hides in the shadows and rushes towards Shirahoshi quickly. What? In full view. In the bright world. Right at Brook's concert. Shirahoshi, the princess of the Fishmen Island, instantly fell into the black hole, causing a burst of exclamations from the Fishmen King. Guards. 99. He shouted angrily. Block off the whole the Fishmen Island for me, Shirahoshi must be found for me. Also, find me the guy who took Shirahoshi, and I'll kill him. The Murloc King was really angry. The trident in his hand released blue lightning. Anything that gets a little closer will be affected. The Fishman King looked at the guard. Let Jinbei come over, this matter must have his help. Yes. The guard leaves. The concert is here, it's over. A group of people in the straw hats were also very angry. Who was that guy who was able to capture Princess Shirahoshi silently? I haven't heard the concert yet. Catch that guy, I'm going to tie it to the arm bar and teach it a good lesson. Zoro rolled up his sleeves. Robin nodded, turned around to the island. The disappearance of Shirahoshi, the Fishman princess, instantly pulled the entire the Fishman Island into a state of combat readiness. It was only when everyone was vigilant that the Fishman King discovered some things that he usually ignored. What? Not only Shirahoshi, but also Murloc girls are missing. What the hell is going on like this? Is someone trying to sabotage me the Fishman Island? The Murloc King roared and slammed the tabletop. Lu Chen glanced at the Murloc King, stretched out his hand to summon Susanoo, and flew directly into the sky. For a moment, a huge flame ignited on Susanoo, like the sun under the sea, lighting up the dark night of the sea. My god, what power is this? 35. Even the Murloc King covered his eyes with a look of astonishment. It doesn't matter what power, finding Shirahoshi is the most important thing now. Nami issued an order. Usopp, go to the east, Sanji, go to the west, Chopper, go to the north, Zoro. Nami paused. You'd better stay in the Murloc Palace and wait for news. Quote question mark. 35. Zoro drew his knife. Why am I waiting for news at the Murloc Palace? Because you'll get lost. Zoro put down the knife silently. He thought, when there is time later, Lu Chen must give him a way to change Lukai and not get lost. Luffy also found a direction and went to find it together. The other side. The multi-joint manager regrets it. What's going on? Who's making trouble? This is the last concert. Brook was about to leave, but he was going to force the other side to stay. But now, Princess Shirahoshi is gone, or at their concerts, it's not easy to end something like this. The manager frowned. The dignified generation of princesses, Bahyu Mijao, with such a huge body, even disappeared at the concert they held. This is undoubtedly hitting them in the face. No, I have to take myself out. This matter has nothing to do with us. The multi-joint manager made up his mind. No one thought that he, who had kidnapped Princess Shirahoshi, was at the bottom of the Fishman Island at this moment. Ha ha ha, a bunch of idiots, can't think of it, Lord is at your feet now. Caribou let out a, slightly, laugh, his eyes full of cunning. After he swallowed Shirahoshi, thinking that the whole island was searching for him, he immediately dived underground. Unexpectedly, the underground of the Fishman Island gets wider and wider. Now, he actually came to the ruins of a battlefield. The scene here shows that the two sides in the initial battle are evenly matched, and they can only perish together in the end. Backquote. Wait, why do I feel that there is something calling me in the stone pile over there? 39. Caribou waited to reveal that there was no danger. He felt it a little. That's right, there is indeed a deep calling. He couldn't help but walk over. Subsequently, he was stunned. The other side. Sea Man. Jinbei rushed over from the sea. At the same time, there are members of the new Fishman pirates, as well as their new captain, Hody. Hody was the same as Arlong at the beginning, cold and low. The only difference is that Arlong is more arrogant, while Hody is more arrogant. Look who we saw, isn't this Hexia Jinbei? Seeing Jinbei from a distance, Hody walked over with a sneer and laughed directly. Hody, you have accepted Arlong's old department, and you should use it to protect our murlocs. Seeing Hody, Jinbei's face was gloomy. It is colder than the deep sea water. Oh, protect the murlocs. Hody sneered. Don't worry, I will protect it, but the system of our murlocs is already rusted. Look at the city built by the Fishman Island. He raised his head, with a hint of madness in his eyes. How can fish people like this deserve protection? 39. Only by overthrowing the old system of the Fishman Island and establishing a new system, will the Fishman One have a brand new future. Jinbei was surprised. What are you going to do? Ha ha ha. Hody did not speak, but looked at Jinbei. Jinbei, I heard that you are doing things for mankind, you should repent now. 99. Help me deal with the king, and after the thing is done, the Fishman Island will be mine, and we will share the profits with 73. How about it? You're really crazy. Jinbei stared at Hody in front of him, holding the group head tightly. You're crazier and stupider than Arlong, at least Arlong won't shoot at murlocs. Chapter 279 Brook's Return. The aura between the two became more and more tense. However, the Murloc king who rushed over made the imminent battle between the two disappear in an instant. Hody, Jinbei, you are finally here. The Murloc king looked angry. An enemy has sneaked into the Fishman Island, not only robbing Shirahoshi, but also many Murloc girls missing in other places. It must be a Murloc trafficker breaking in. Hearing this sentence, Jinbei went straight to the Fishman king, and said without anger, Shirahoshi's size can also be captured, the opponent must be demon fruit power, and it may even involve the space system. Nonsense. Hody opened his mouth to push Jinbei, walked to the Murloc king, squeezed him aside with his shoulders, and looked at the person in front of him. He said carelessly, Your Majesty, please rest assured, Shirahoshi, as the princess of the Fishman Island, I will bring him back even if I risk my life, Shirahoshi. Jinbei looked at Hody coldly. This guy swears by his mouth, but only a part of the disgusting actions he does behind his back are known. If Arlong, the head of the Murloc pirates at the time, only hated humans, then this guy in front of him hated humans and deeply hated Murlocs. Jinbei has secretly investigated. There are many cases of missing girls on the Fishman Island, and they are inseparable from the relationship with Hody. Too bad there is no evidence. 147 He coughed heavily, too lazy to argue with Hody. Have you searched around the Fishman Island during the time we've been here? The Murloc king nodded. His expression was dignified. I've looked for it all, but don't say Shirahoshi's shadow, even for other missing Murloc girls, we haven't found any clues. The whole of Fishman Island has been blocked. If the other party wants to leave, they can either forcefully enter the sea through the bubble membrane and swim to the shore. Either there is only one way, and that is to force through the port and grab a boat and leave. 35. But after so long, there is no sign of any change in the whole of Fishman Island, either they have left long ago, or they are looking for a place to hide. Hearing the Murloc king say this, Jinbei and Hody fell into deep thought. It was definitely impossible to leave so quickly. Especially when Jinbei decides that the opponent is demon fruit power, the opponent has only one way to leave by boat. But there is no news yet, the guy who kidnapped Princess Shirahoshi and many Murloc girls is really patient. Hody, you are the best at finding human traffickers, then it's up to you. Jinbei looked at Hody and said in a deep voice. Hody's face sank slightly and glanced at Jinbei. He grew up in the sewers of the Fishman Island, and Jinbei's words aroused the most sensitive part of his heart. It's a pity that the situation is not suitable now, he can only snort heavily, turn around and lead people away. The most important purpose now is to find Shirahoshi. If such a big Murloc were put in a slave auction, not to mention the richest man in every country in the world. I'm afraid every celestial dragons will be tempted. That's a lot of Baileys. If you add the identity of the other party's princess, the price will double directly. Looking at Hody who left in a hurry, Jinbei also looked at the Murloc king. Take me to the place where Shirahoshi disappeared. Manager, I've done your last concert for you, my partner needs me now, I have to leave. In the makeup restroom, Brook will represent the mojito guitar of his musical dreams, a guitar that cost hundreds of millions of Baileys and is collectively built by the most powerful artisans among the multi-joint people. He was cherished in front of him. Instead, he grabbed the crutch that was usually just used for decoration. He stroked the stick lightly. The slender famous sword in there has not been unsheathed since the Summit War 2 years ago. And today, it will swing again for the mates. Kill all enemies who dare to stand in front of you. The manager looked at Brook with a complicated expression. The person he sent to stop the Straw Hats went missing for no apparent reason, and this incident made him feel uneasy. ACBD. Originally, the thoughts that were firmly opposed to Brook's departure were now much lessened. More of guilt. He took a deep breath and nodded at Brook. Okay, Brook, since you've made up your mind, I won't say anything. You keep this guitar, it's yours after all. 99. I assure you, no matter when, no matter how long it takes, as long as the king of your soul wants to give a concert, we will still be together. 35. When the time comes, we will definitely make more exquisite guitars and crutches for you. Brook was slightly surprised. He didn't think so. The manager who was resolutely opposed to it before will actually support him uncharacteristically today. But, it's not important anymore, because he has seen his buddy under the concert. Luffy's laughing face. An oversized cheer stick effect created by Nami with a weather stick. Robin gracefully poses with flower fruit, Brook come on. Serious and calm Chen is also waving a light stick in a serious manner. Chopper, Usopp, and Franky, yelling at him as if they were standing on the stage. Everyone is there. Everyone is waiting for him. And he should return to the boat. Goodbye, if there is another day of goodbye. Brook leaned on crutches and picked up the guitar. Although he is now on the pirate ship, his music dream is still in hand. Jinbei walked to the concert scene. Taking a closer look at the surroundings, he revealed doubts in his eyes. Wait, this ground. He reached out and touched it, and there was a piece of residual soil powder on his hand. But the ground here is paved with slate, and usually someone cleans it here to maintain daily cleanliness. Logically speaking, there should be no such thing as this kind of soil powder in this place. Quote. He reached out and lifted the slate on the ground and looked at the soil below. Really, there are traces of the dirt here. It was as if something passed through the gap between the stone slabs and escaped along the soil. Quick, let the Murloc soldiers pay attention to the dirt under their feet. The Murloc king also discovered this, and ordered the soldiers furiously. There was a trace of thought in Jinbei's eyes. He had heard about the power of being able to travel through the dirt, such as one of Doflamingo's subordinates. But the other party just turned the ground into water, and only he could not be hindered. The person in front of him obviously integrated himself into the soil, and only in this way can he not damage the surrounding ground. Take away Princess Shirahoshi. Chapter 280, The Resurrected Murloc Powerhouse. I think he should have hid under the Fishman Island. Jinbei said with a long sigh of relief. As long as people haven't left the Fishman Island, this will work fine. No matter what method they use, they can finally find each other. Jinbei looked at the Fishman King. The identity of this guy, I think, should be the card of the 11 people in the most evil generation, Laboon. His devil power fruit is a mud fruit, which can not only turn himself into a swamp like mud, but also swallow others and other things into his mud body. Like another dimension, just find and defeat him. It turned out to be so. Hearing Jinbei's words, the Mermaid King finally breathed a sigh of relief. The other party is a muddy fruit person. Quickly find the place covered with mud. Even if you dig 3 feet in the ground, you must find that guy for me. The Mermaid King issued an order on the spot. The entire Mermaid Kingdom also took action. At this time, there was also a change in the ground of Mermaid Island. Caribou received an inexplicable summon and came to a battle ruin. The scene in front of him made him take a deep breath. This battle relic seems to be hundreds of years old, but the remains of a corpse are still lifelike and have not rotted in the slightest. Caribou took a closer look and found that there was still a strong hockey power left on the corpse. It was this hockey power that kept this corpse from decaying for hundreds of years. Like an arm wrapped around an armament hockey, unless it's a hockey of the same power or beyond. Otherwise, nothing can destroy it. And on this corpse, Caribou even felt that the owner's unwilling will remained on it. It is the will that affects the hockey on the corpse for a long time and keeps the corpse from decaying. Seeing such a situation, Caribou's mind suddenly became active. Many people know that his mud fruit can turn into a swamp state and sneak in the ground and mud. But few people know that his muddy fruit has another power. The power of imitation. As long as he swallows the opponent into his own mud space, he can transform into the opponent's appearance and use the opponent's power. Previously, Caribou seldom used the ability of muddy fruit because the conditions were too harsh. A person stronger than him cannot easily be swallowed into the muddy space, and a person weaker than him, after swallowing the muddy space, transforms into the other party's appearance and obtains the power, which is not as good as himself. But now, at a glance at the corpse in front of him, you can tell that the other party was a super strong of the Murlocs before his death. Strength, hockey, and combat experience are all richer than themselves. If he can obtain the power of this corpse, he is confident that he will have the power to fight even against other people of the most evil generation. Ha ha ha, old man, your power is mine. 35. Caribou grinned, turned into a muddy swamp state, and instantly engulfed the corpse. Let me see what the strength of this corpse is. Caribou smiled and transformed directly into a corpse. But before he could feel the powerful force from 100 years ago, he suddenly felt his body stiff. An extremely powerful force rushed out directly from the depths of the body. That turned out to be the will left on the corpse. Caribou's eyes were full of horror. No, 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 how could this be? This power is mine, who are you? 99. Before he finished speaking, his eyes widened. Afterwards, the breath of the whole body became thick and independent, completely different from the sinister and slippery breath of Caribou. This is, I am, resurrected. The corpse powerhouse who just woke up looked at his hands and recalled the picture in his mind. His name is Dakin. 100 years ago, humans invaded the Fishman Island, massacred the Murlocs and captured them into slaves. The Murlocs are in jeopardy. And he was the first Murloc to stand up and lead the Murlocs to fight against humans. It was him who led the Murlocs to defend the safety of the Fishman Island. It was him who established the Murloc pirates, just to give the Murlocs a place in the world. It was him who started the reverse war. Humans can occupy the Fishman Island and treat the fishmen as slaves, why can't they invade the land and treat humans as slaves? Under his leadership, the consciousness of all Murlocs changed from peace to battle. Pity. At that time, the Murloc Queen, Princess Otoshi, demanded peaceful coexistence between Murlocs and humans, and even openly opposed his idea of conquering land and treating humans as slaves. 0. Ask for flowers. HMPH, the kindness of women. Even after 100 years, Deacon still feels resentful when he thinks of this. His eyes were full of anger, and it fell on the dead mermaid swordsman beside him. In his memories, he told him that this guy's name was Kewe Tang, who was once a first-class great swordsman of the Murlocs, and a die-hard loyalist of Queen Otoji's peace theory. He created Murloc swordsmanship and Murloc karate, which not only greatly enhanced the Murloc's physique, but also enhanced the Murloc's combat effectiveness on land. Later, he was ordered by Empress Otoji to behead him here. I can't imagine that, after 100 years, I will be reborn here. Dakin narrowed his eyes and absorbed Tang's corpse with the muddy fruit. Feeling the power belonging to Kewe Tang, Dakin laughed. Murlocs can live in water and on land, while humans can only live on land, which shows that merfolk are inherently stronger than humans. 5. As weak human beings, they should have become slaves of our Murlocs. He kicked his feet and rushed out of the underground cave, roaring angrily, now, it's time for me to fulfill my wish. I will become the great hero of the Murlocs. Boom. The ground of the hole the Fishman Island shook violently. Standing in the sky, Lu Chen, who used Susanoo's power to provide the light source, saw a man with black aura rush out from the ground of the Fishman Island. As soon as this person appeared, he made eye contact with Lu Chen. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Both looked question marks, especially Lu Chen. The moment Dakin rushed out, he shouted, I want to become a big hero of the Murlocs, which directly made Lu Chen to Gen Ma. Before crossing, he was also a middle school boy. But the uncle in front of him looks at least in his 40s, and he actually shouts this kind of middle school. Do you think this is the world of two-dimensional animation? It seems to be true. Forget it. Lu Chen secretly complained in his heart, but he looked at the opposite factory vigilantly. Chapter 281 The Hero's Unheroic Deeds. What are you looking at? Seeing the other party looking at him up and down, Lu Chen couldn't hold back and asked. Lu Chen swore that he really didn't mean to provoke the other party. Just seeing the strange look in the other party's eyes, he naturally blurted out such a sentence. But after he finished speaking, he immediately stopped. Looking at Daikon with a strange face on the opposite side, Lu Chen felt a little fortunate in his heart. The other party is a Murloc from the world of pirates, so he shouldn't understand this stock, right? Who knows? The Murloc on the opposite side stretched out his arm and was wrapped in armament hockey, punching Lu Chen's face with a punch. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Susanoo hurriedly dodged. Lu Chen stopped and asked quickly, You be asterisk 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 D, do you understand what I mean? Just as Dakin was about to continue his attack, he stopped when he heard Lu Chen's question. He has a gloomy look on his face. 147. When was the sky of the Fishman Island occupied by humans? Only watered with your blood can wash away the shame of the Fishman Island. As soon as the voice fell, the other party attacked again. Lu Chen dodged again and again. To be frank, he felt that hockey in the pirate world was outrageous. Susanoo is one of the most powerful energy-gathering powers in the world of Hokage, and it can be said to be quite powerful. In Hokage, even Amaterasu, which is said to be able to burn everything, can be blocked by the energy-enhancing chakra coat. Available here, in the face of armament hockey, who embodied willpower, Susanoo's chakra coat was punched through by the opponent. At that time, the Murloc's fist was only 0.01 centimeters from the tip of Lu Chen's nose, and it took 3 seconds for Lu Chen's Kamui Susanoo chakra coat to be repaired. The Murloc's fist only needed 0.1 seconds to hit Lu Chen's face. But after 0.01 seconds, the Murloc will regret his own recklessness. Human, give me death. Deacon's anger erupted like thunder. A punch slammed into Lu Chen's face, and Daikon's fist went straight through Lu Chen's body. This surprised the Murlocs who had been dead for hundreds of years. What's going on? Before he could react, Lu Chen turned his head and kicked his A*. Let's go. Dakin was caught off guard, and his whole body fell like a meteor, smashing from the sky to the ground. Immediately attracted many Murloc soldiers. Cough, cough, cough. Dakin waved his hand to disperse the dust, looked at Lu Chen in the sky, his eyes showed a hint of confusion and caution. What exactly is your ability? He asked in a deep voice. Devil Fruit, the space system that acts directly on itself. Why can't my armament hockey coil be hit? 35. This is definitely not the power of the fruit. Lu Chen stood in the sky, looking down at Dakin, who was on the ground, his eyes darkening slightly. I am the power of blood following the boundaries, this is called Kamui, 99. Kamui. Dakin's eyes flashed a trace of confusion after thinking. He had never heard of a Kamui among the forces created by humans. And this thing has a blood follower boundary. What is this thing? What happened to the human race during the time of his own death? Could it be that apart from devil fruit development, hockey, swordsmanship, and taijutsu, they have created a new training system? Now, it's time for you to introduce yourself. Lu Chen looked at each other, and Susanoo had 2 windmill darts full of Kamui's power. Who are you? Dakin stood up straight, and proudly raised his chest. I am the first hero of the Murlocs who fought against human beings 100 years ago, Dakin. The resurrection now is to allow the fish people of the Fishmen Island to gain true freedom, counterattack the land, and turn all human beings into our slaves. 99. Deacon. Lu Chen thought about it for a while and found that the name was not very impressed in his mind. Forget it. No matter who you are, a person who can say such a thing will not be wrong by killing 1,000 people. 35. Lu Chen is the most annoying thing about this kind of mindless thinking. Anyway, the other party has clearly stated that they want to be the enemy of the human race. Although he has no feeling for the human race in this world, he still has no feeling for the Murloc race in this world. In addition to friends, in contrast, he chose to help the human race that was closer to him. But just as he was about to shoot, the Murloc soldiers next to him reached out and blocked Lu Chen's attack. Please wait a while, a Murloc soldier shouted loudly, and then, he stretched out his hand to look at the man with 100 years of vicissitudes in front of him. His face was full of excitement. Dakin, are you really the one who existed in the legend 100 years ago? That's right. 35. Dakin nodded. His face was gloomy, but there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. I heard that you didn't die with the great swordsman Kiwai. Why? A Murloc soldier asked in astonishment. Yes, I did die together with Tang, but God knows that I still have a long-cherished wish unfulfilled, and specially resurrected me today, just to lead the Murlocs to a strong future. Deacon laughed. No one noticed that with Dakin's anger, a trace of black hockey escaped into the air. With the sound and breathing, it was integrated into the bodies of these soldiers. The breathing of these soldiers became heavier and heavier, their eyes became more and more red, and they became more and more loyal when they looked at Dakin's eyes. I don't know since when, the spirits of these soldiers were controlled by Dakin and became his puppets. When Lu Chen realized something was wrong, it was too late. He was just about to launch 2 Kamui darts, but he didn't expect Dakin to block all these Murloc soldiers in front of him. Very well, you have the potential to be a villain. 99. Lu Chen put down his dart helplessly and looked at Dakin. With your behavior, can you become a hero of the Murlocs? If such a person can be called a hero by pushing his compatriots in front of him to block damage, then he has to say 1.3 well. Dakin looked ruthless. In order for the Murlocs to successfully land on the land, this sacrifice must be paid. As for you, human, I admit that you are very strong. Dakin sneered, suddenly turned around and rushed into the main hall of the Murloc palace. There is a huge tree covered with hollows, which continuously releases fresh breath with breathing, and supports the whole coating of the Fishmen Island. Dakin laughed wildly. I don't know how long a guy like you can stay under 10,000 meters of seabed. Shit. Lu Chen's face changed. He is not the only human race on the Fishmen Island, there are tens of thousands of human beings living here alone. Not to mention human beings, there are Murlocs that are quite fragile in themselves. Without the protection of the coating, under the high pressure of the seabed, these Murlocs would be instantly crushed into meat patties. Chapter 282 Sanji's Wrath. This is the hero of the fish people. Lu Chen was full of depression. The hero conditions of the fish people are quite unique. Although he is not a hero. But in order to keep himself and the rest of the Straw Hats from being buried in the sea of 10,000 meters, Lu Chen still shot Dakin. Want to attack me? Dakin reached out and let the Murloc soldiers charge at Lu Chen. These controlled Murlocs are not afraid of death one by one, their eyes are full of bloodshots, and their strength is even more amazing. Foaming from the corners of his mouth. Lu Chen's goal is only Dakin, but he has no time to entangle with these soldiers. Between his waves, Magneto's magnetic control grabbed the iron gun in the hands of the soldiers and threw it back, freeing them from the entanglement of these soldiers. At this moment, Dakin is less than 100 meters away from the bubble tree on the Fishmen Island. Ha ha ha, fish people, rush to land with me and turn all human beings into slaves. 99. Dakin roared in victory, but at this moment, the corner of his eyes narrowed slightly. In front of the palace, someone unexpectedly appeared. Do not, it's not a man, it's a skeleton. This skeleton is wearing an explosive head, dressed in a well-cut dress, and carries a delicate piano case on his back. He stood on a spire above the city wall, with the scepter in his hand supporting his body, and holding the top hat on his head with one hand to prevent it from being blown away by the wind. Seeing Hakan rushing over, he made a strange laugh of, oh ho ho. Want to destroy the bubble giant tree on the Fishmen Island? I'm sorry, although I have died once, but I don't want my body to soak in the cold sea water. He paused, then continued. Although my body is nothing but bones, there is nothing to eat. Looking at the human, who became a skeleton and could still move in front of him, Hakan was extremely astonished. He thought, only he was lucky enough to be resurrected. Unexpectedly, someone was more fortunate than him, and even turned into a skeleton and survived. The world is so crazy. When he saw Brook, Hakan had only one thought in his mind. But the arrow had to be sent on the string. He is the hero of the Fishmen Island, his dream is to take the fishmen to occupy the land, how can he stay here? Go away. Hakan roared angrily, hockey wrapped around his hands. With your power, I can't use the power of God. Brook chuckled and stepped on the air. The scepter is held horizontally. Only heard a click. As if dazzled, the brook in front of him disappeared in an instant, but behind Hakan, there was the sound of the skeleton just now. The yellow spring is frozen. What? Hakan hadn't reacted yet, and suddenly felt a pain in his chest, and his whole body was stiff in the air. He didn't know when. His whole body was covered with a thick layer of ice. Hakan's eyes showed shock. Also as a dead man, He certainly knew what the cold air was freezing on his body. This is the cold air from the yellow springs of hell. He was no longer shocked, but frightened. This skeleton is not only lucky, he is the darling of hell. He can even use the yellow spring cold in hell, and he can't use the yellow spring cold even after he has died for hundreds of years. For the first time, other expressions appeared in the eyes of hero Hakan. Lu Chen rushed to Brook's side, and Susanoo reached out and grabbed him. Woohoo! It turns out that Lu Chen sang, "Your giant feels like this." Brook touched Susanoo curiously, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Although Lu Chen didn't know how curious light flashed in his empty eye sockets. The noise of the mermaid palace also attracted other people. This is heroic Hakan. Seeing Hakan breaking free from the cold air in the yellow spring, Hody of the mermaid pirates was shocked. In the eyes of Hai Sha, Jinbei, who hurried over, there was a hint of consternation and caution. Hakan, didn't he die with the great swordsman Kewei Tang 100 years ago? How could he still be alive? Immediately, the sharp-eyed he found the fine soil scattered around Hakan, and Jinbei's eyes showed a trace of surprise. Wait, you're not Hakan, you're Caribou, one of the 11 of the evil generation. What? 35. Jinbei's words suddenly startled a group of exclamations. Luffy, Sanji, Robin, Zoro, Usopp, and Chopper, who came from other places, had already joined Lu Chen. What happened? Robin looked at Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked at his friends and explained. This guy claims to be the hero of the Murlocs 100 years ago, Hakan, and wants to lead the Murlocs to land and turn humans into their slaves. As soon as the words fell, the faces of the partners changed. The eyes they looked at Hakan suddenly turned bad. The navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates, Nami. Once a slave of the Murloc Pirates. At that time, the Fish Man Pirates were still the captain of Arlong, the Shark Man. Arlong was ambitious and saw Nami's sailing ability. He directly imprisoned Nami, who was only 7 or 8 years old, and let her draw charts day and night. At that time, the captain took Zoro, and the two directly defeated the entire Murloc Pirates and burned down the drawing room where the Murlocs imprisoned Nami. But, this pain remains in the hearts of every partner. Now I hear someone talking about this again. The other side is still a fish man. Immediately, I remembered the suffering that Nami suffered in the first place. Those Murlocs in Arlong had the idea of imprisoning human beings as slaves, and they were not necessarily influenced by heroes. 147. Like the hero, Garp in Marine. All aspects of his spirit affect the whole Marine, and in the heart of every Marine soldier, there is an absolutely bright hero to support. A-hole. Sanji, who likes Nami the most among the Straw Hats, has anger in his eyes. Devil's feet. Without waiting for the others to speak, he had already ignited the wind foot, and the whole person was shrouded in a fiery red. His whole body burst like coke. A ferocious red long dragon suddenly appeared and roared towards Hakan. Night Guy. Boom. The whole the Fishman Island seemed to be shaken by an earthquake. The ground collapsed, the coating outside shook wildly, and countless Murlocs fell directly to the ground because they were unstable. Ha ha ha. Sanji collapsed to the ground with all his strength, his feet were trembling slightly, and his bones had already cracked. Night Guy is the last trick of 8 Gate Guy's last life in Hokage Ninja, powerful enough to kill a god. Of course, Sanji doesn't have the body as powerful as 8 Gate Guy, and he doesn't have 8 inner gates to exert his full power. It is also a blessing in disguise, he will not consume his life after using up the Night Guy. But the power consumption is huge, and every time you use it, you can only lie on the ground. But looking at the Murloc hero, Hakan who turned into a mess in front of him, Sanji's eyes flashed with joy. Chapter 283 The Princess of the Mermaid Kingdom was kidnapped, and it turned out to be the hero Hakan. It was under the influence of this guy that Arlong imprisoned Miss Nami and made Miss Nami suffer and tortured. How can such a guy be called a hero? Sanji is cool. But the Murlocs around were startled. Just after their hero was resurrected, he was kicked to death by someone. The Murlocs turned their heads to look at Sanji, with strong killing intent in their eyes. Those who insult heroes, die. The new captain of the Murloc pirates, Hody, was even more furious. Hakan was his idol since childhood. It is precisely because of his worship of Hakan that he tried his best to become the captain of the Murloc pirates after Arlong died. He even carried out Hakan's thought to the end, and was always ready to attack the human race. Now, he saw his idol, but the idol was on the ground, and it was so broken that he couldn't even pick it up. Hody has only 3 words in mind now. MMP. Straw Hat Pirates, have you figured out how to die? 35. Hody snorted coldly, and rushed over with the people of the Murloc Pirates. The shot is Fishman Karate. Lu Chen and Luffy's eyes sank, and just as they were about to shoot, a Murloc appeared in front of the Straw Hat Pirates and reached out to take Hody's karate. It's the Sea Man Jinbei. He roared angrily. Hody. Look at it clearly, then you are not a hero Hakan at all. Has Hakan ever eaten devil fruit? Everyone followed Jinbei's gaze. On the ground, Hakan's body, which was smashed into slag by Sanji's kick, turned into soft and sticky mud. As if there was life, these soils quickly gathered towards the middle. It's just that Hody interrupted everyone's time, and the soil has gathered a human figure. Subsequently, recondensed into the appearance of the hero Hakan. With one hand on the ground, his face turned pale, and he coughed heavily to the ground. Obviously, although Sanji's kick didn't kill him just now, it still hurt him badly. This guy isn't dead yet. Anger flared up in Sanji's eyes again, who was lying on the ground, struggling to stand up. Help me up, I have to give him another kick. 5. Night guy. Robin pressed him directly to the ground with his own hands. You don't have a night guy, just like you. One more night guy. Hakan hasn't died yet, you've turned into ashes. Chen patted Sanji on the shoulder. As the master of system ability, he knows the aftermath of night guy very well. Jinbei looked at Hakan indifferently. Kalibo, hand over Princess Shirahoshi and the mermaid girl you kidnapped. Otherwise, my sea hero, Jinbei, will turn 11 people from the evil generation into 10 people today. Hody, who was on the side, panicked immediately. He stretched out his hand to block and was extremely angry. Hakan, as a former hero of our mermaid tribe, how dare you question him? Have you forgotten who liberated us from the plundering of mankind? Are you going to abandon your heroes? This the Fishmen Island, we don't have to wait. Hody reached out to help Hakan, but was blocked by the other party. He coughed heavily and stretched out his hand to form a swamp in front of him. A huge mermaid, curled up and sleeping in the past, slowly rose from the swamp. Just the moment it appeared, everyone's eyes showed consternation and suspicion. This is really a mermaid princess. Really Shirahoshi. Heroic Hakan actually kidnapped the princess. Things that everyone doesn't want to believe, but they've seen it with their own eyes. Just now, the mermaids who blamed the Straw Hat Pirates bowed their heads one after another. The Mermaid King even stretched out his arms to pick up his daughter, tears streaming down his eyes. Fortunately, Shirahoshi didn't take any damage. He promised Yeji to protect their daughter well, but he did not expect his daughter to be kidnapped in front of his eyes. What a lousy father he is. Others looked at Hakan with disappointment in their eyes. Jinbei was reluctant. Kalibo, what about the other kidnapped mermaid girls? Hand them all over. 5. He paused, then continued. Do you want to be knocked out by me and let me take it myself? Hakan shook his head and showed a wry smile. As a hero of the Murlocs, how could I kidnap people from my own group? When I woke up, I found Shirahoshi in this man's power space. I can't believe Shirahoshi has grown so big, and I've hugged her before. Seeing Jinbei's disbelief, Hakan shook his head. Don't worry, heroes never lie. But there are 16 mermaid girls lost on Mermaid Island. If you didn't catch them, where are they? There were thoughts in the eyes of the people around. Hody's eyes rolled, and thin beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. At this moment, Chen's heart moved. The whole person instantly appeared in the Kamui space. When he activated the blood wheel eye and looked out from the Kamui space, the outside world seemed to be open to perspective. The house is deconstructed into low light lines. And people become bright energy points. The more powerful the person, the higher the energy. Because of Shirahoshi and the hero Hakan, all the inhabitants gathered around the royal city, and the rest of the place was empty. Fly into the air and swipe a little. Chen immediately discovered an area with more than a dozen bright spots closely next to each other. Backquote. Found. 99. Chen's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly used the Kamui to cross the space and quickly appeared outside the warehouse. In his eyes, the Murloc girls who were highlighted by the highlights were struggling hard, and one even stood up hard. She wanted her companions to find a way to untangle the ropes that bound her hands. Just then, the door suddenly opened. A man who was brighter than those mermaid girls, Did Zhao, appeared, and he kicked the standing mermaid back. Wow, Lord Hody is right, you girls are really cunning, and you dare to resist. 99. The Murloc girl was slapped severely, and the one who fell to the ground was rewarded by someone. Plus, just as the fish man pirate opened the door, a man in black appeared in front of him. He was stunned for a moment. Who the hell are you? The answer was a size 39 soul, which kicked him in the face. With a wave of his hand, he put the Murloc girls and the fainted pirates into the Kamui space. Reach out again. He was back where he was. In the eyes of others, Chen disappeared for less than a minute. Murloc girl, I have found it. Chen said, reaching out to open the Kamui space. A mermaid girl appeared in front of everyone, and the one who finally fell to the ground was the fainted pirate. Chapter 284 The Other Side of the Hero. Ouch. It hurts. Chen's unsympathetic technique directly awakened the unconscious fishman pirate. Surrounded by Murlocs and humans, they looked at him with cold eyes. This made the fishman pirate panic. When he saw a familiar figure in the crowd, he was overjoyed and rushed to the past without hesitation. He hugged each other's thigh. Boss. A guy rushed into our warehouse and knocked me out. Go away. Who the hell are you? I don't know you at all. Hody's face was ashen, but the eyes of others have completely changed. The pirate turned his head to see Chen, but his face was filled with joy. He quickly pointed at Chen and shouted, Boss, I just saw this human break into the warehouse. His voice stopped abruptly, because he saw those merman girls who were kidnapped, as well as the merman family members with angry eyes. In front of their eyes, there is also Jinbei, the sea man, with a just and righteous face. Two huge figures beside him. It is the Murloc King and the mermaid princess, Shirahoshi. The fishman pirate's brain twitched, and he blurted out, Boss, are we going to tie up Princess Shirahoshi? This is not easy to hide. Wow, 147 is just a moment. The eyes of all the Murlocs present changed. The Murloc soldiers raised their spears one by one and aimed them at Hody in front of them, their eyes full of hostility. They ate and drank together before obviously, and they were like brothers and sisters. What a fool. 35. Hody saw that his own affairs had been completely exposed, and immediately stopped hiding. He stretched out his hand and punched the younger brother who had ruined his good deeds in front of him. Countless blood spurted out of the opponent's face, and his teeth fell out. Rolling his eyes, he fainted again. And Hody looked at Lu Chen, Hexia Jinbei, and others. He looked unhappy. Hey. You guys, what kind of look is this? 35. Hexia Jinbei stood up, his eyes suppressed his anger and said, Hody, I was a little suspicious before, but I didn't expect. You actually started to attack your fellow Murlocs. You are the captain of the Fishmen Pirates, your duty should be to protect the Fishmen Island and all the Fishmen. What are you doing now? The eyes of the others were full of anger and equally full of doubts. Hody sneered. ACBD, of course I am protecting the Fishmen Island. Looking at the puzzled look of others, he said proudly, do you know how far the human race has developed? You also know that compared to Murlocs and humans, which side has the advantage? I can tell you that the development of human beings can no longer be restrained. Gunpowder, devil fruit, potion, power, as long as they have money, they can create everything that we Murlocs would never dare to imagine. But what about us Murlocs? He laughed, his icy eyes swept across the sea hero Jinbei, the Murloc king, and the Murlocs in them. Our Murlocs haven't developed anything, don't say anything, even one by one. Fight. Infighting. From the sewers where I survived when I was a child, all the bottom Murlocs struggled to survive there. Do you know what it's like to struggle in a stinky ditch? Do you know how desperate it is to be robbed of food? Do you know? 35. Looking at the ugly expressions of all the Murlocs, Hody laughed with satisfaction. You stand on it one by one, eating the delicacies I got from humans, using the clothes I exchanged from humans, living in humans for you building a house, is it cool? How can you talk like that? Hakan on the side said in a deep voice, Murloc pirates. I remember the purpose of its establishment is to protect the Murlocs and to show the name of the Murlocs on the world. You are tarnishing this duty by doing this. Ha ha. Hody looked at Hakan with a hint of reverence in his eyes, and a little disgust. Hero Hakan, I don't know if you're pretending, or what's going on. Don't you have the slightest impression? The purpose of your establishment of the Murloc pirates is to better sell Murlocs. What? Everyone opened their mouths in astonishment. This is a far cry from the hero stories they've heard before. How could I do something like that? Hakan was also shocked. As if knowing that the other party didn't believe it, Hody took out a dilapidated book from his arms and smashed it in front of Hakan immediately. Look for yourself, this is the bill and diary you left behind when you were selling fish people. Hero. Huh, he let out a sneer of disdain. Hakan's eyes showed shock. Do not. No, he is clearly the hero who protects the Murlocs. He was the first Murloc hero who founded the Murloc pirates and led Murlocs against humans. Hakan opened the diary and turned the pages one by one. His speed became faster and faster, his face became more and more pale, and finally he threw the diary in his hand to the ground, and he collapsed on the ground weakly. How could this be? He fell to the ground, staring blankly at the blue seabed. His eyes were scattered, deeper and deeper consciousness. Deeper and deeper, he remembered. Back then, he was just an antique dealer. At the beginning, humans and Murlocs had a clear boundary, humans did not enter the Fishmen Island, and Murlocs would not go to land. All transactions are carried out on the sea. It's him. When he was collecting antiques, he found a secret and treasure map about the Fishmen Island. At that time, as a private antique dealer, he often violated orders to go to the land to find antiques, and even trade various things with others. After knowing the secret and the treasure map, he hurriedly brought it to the shore and traded with the humans on the shore. So get a powerful practice method, get unique hockey and power. And human beings also attack the Fishmen Island, wanting to get the things in the secret and the treasure hidden in the Fishmen Island. It's him again. After gaining power, he took the opportunity to create a Murloc pirate group, on the surface, in the name of protecting Murlocs, but in fact, under the cover of the pirates, they continued to capture and sell Murloc slaves. This incident was later discovered by the Murloc swordsman Kiwaitang. He followed him to the secret treasure land. Not only was he indifferent to the treasures all over the place, he even took out his sword to kill him underground. Naturally, he was unwilling and desperately resisted. In the end, the two fell together on the treasure in the secret treasure land, and his unwilling will still remained. Obviously he has gained so much. Chapter 285 Hody's Mutiny. Obviously he has gained fame, power, wealth. Just a little bit, he will be able to make a name for himself in the world and live his life with everything in style. Kekewei Tang ruined everything for him. It turns out that you are not a hero. Hakan, who was reborn 100 years later, slowly closed his eyes, and a tear fell from the corner of his eyes. It is finally dead. The shape of the muddy fruit has changed. Everyone watched helplessly, and Hakan, who was originally mature, gradually turned into Caribou, one of the 11 people in the extremely evil generation. Because of the huge mental shock, he had completely fainted. One by one he devoured, including those arranged by the celestial dragons and the multi-joint manager. One by one they were thrown out. All eyes fell on Hody. Hexia Jinbei's eyes were cold. Although Hakan made a mistake, he was dead. Hody is still alive. Jinbei asked coldly, Hody, what else do you want to say? Say, what can I say? Hody sneered. As he waved his hand, a large number of Murloc pirates rushed out from all directions. The Murloc king was taken aback. The number of Murlocs in this Murloc pirate group was 2 or 3 times more than he knew. When did Hody establish such a powerful force? Although those pirates were not as well trained as the Murloc soldiers, they were numerous, and they were not afraid of death. With the advantage of the number of people, he quickly broke through the defense of the soldiers and came to Hody's side. Boss. 35. A Murloc nodded at Hody and stood behind him. Looking at the situation in front of them, everyone was shocked. Especially the Murloc king. Because, at this moment, those who stand in front of him and resist him are all his people under the Fishman Island. How so? The Fishman king looked shocked, and he couldn't believe it on his honest face. He has always been diligent in maintaining the life of the islanders and paying attention to the existence of every Murloc. It is precisely because of this that he is loved by the people. But now, why would anyone still stand up and say they're not doing well? The Murloc king didn't quite understand. Hody had a gloomy expression on his face. Have you seen it? Everyone here is a Murloc who lives in the sewers. Since they were born, they have not seen the blue seabed, and they are on the black sewers ground every day. 35. What I have to do every day is to find food in the dirty and smelly sewers, otherwise, I will fall into the dirty water and be choked to death by those disgusting black water. So, the Fishman Island should be taken over by me. Hody's remarks instantly shocked all the Murlocs. Even the Murloc king was stunned by the scene described by Hody. He couldn't believe that this was really what happened to the Fishman Island he was protecting. How so? It shouldn't be like this. Just when the Fishman king was in a panic, a figure appeared on his shoulder and patted the king's shoulder. He turned his head to look. It's Chen. He's the handsome black-clothed guy in the Straw Hat Pirates. He remembered. The Fishmen prophets predicted that this man is the hope of saving the Fishman Island. The Murloc king didn't know that hope meant all sides. But at this moment, he could only hold on to the only straw, Mr. Chen. Don't think too much, it's not your fault. Without waiting for him to ask, Chen spoke slowly. The Fish King was shocked. The opposite Hody was also startled, but he was unhappy in his heart. He shouted angrily, why? The Murloc king, Mr. Yan, was also full of doubts. Yes, why? Chen shook his head. He is a traveler, and this kind of thing is on Earth, in the history written by the country where he lives. It can be seen everywhere. As small as a region, as large as a country. No matter how hard the leaders try to govern, there will eventually be a place where darkness breeds. There is no way, because people are like that. There will always be places where there is no light. Even if all the darkness is cleared away in a short time, new darkness will definitely appear in a short time. Even more hidden than before, more difficult to notice. But does this mean that the leadership is incompetent? Should he abdicate? Do not. Chen doesn't think so. Manpower is limited. If you only rely on others, then no matter what you do, you will feel that others owe you. 0. Ask for flowers. The king of the Murlocs. When he saw the prosperity of the Fishman Island, he naturally knew it. This king is really great. Just maybe not careful enough. They can't completely eliminate the darkness, but they can make the dark place smaller and fewer. Chen-san. The Murloc king looked sad, and Chen said, King Murloc, as the spirit of the entire Murloc, you should gather everyone now to destroy the rebellious enemies. You can't keep Hody and the others alive, but you must keep your current Murloc residents safe. After a few words, the Fishman king was enlightened and awakened. Yup, Hody and their affairs, he has no way to salvage anything. He can only try his best to protect the remaining people. Murloc soldiers, attack. The Murloc king pushed Shirahoshi away and let her hide behind him, but he picked up his weapon and rushed forward first. Murloc soldiers, all rush with me. The Fishman king took the lead, and a powerful fighting force erupted from his huge body. At the beginning he was able to become the king of the Fishman Island, but it was not just kindness. Facing the cheered king, the soldiers of the Fishman Island cheered up one after another, and many daring residents responded. The Murloc pirates who had the upper hand retreated one after another. Jinbei even faced Hody. Jinbei's eyes were full of pity for Hody, but Hody's eyes were full of disgust when he looked at Jinbei. Jinbei, you really shouldn't meddle in your business. Jinbei shook his head, posing as a Murloc karate. What I regret is that I should have come over earlier to meddle in my business. I had a bad feeling before, but I didn't expect that you would choose to attack your compatriots. Arlong is more responsible than you. Jinbei sneered lightly, but did not stop in his hand. Murloc karate, Shark Wa Zhengchen. Boom. The surrounding air seemed to be as viscous as seawater, and Jinbei punched Hody directly, crushing it with the air. It was the Murloc karate created by Kewei Tang, the great Murloc swordsman 100 years ago. Through the Murloc's familiarity with water, use the power of water to fight. If this move is put into the water, the power will increase by at least 10 times. Boom. Factory. Chapter 286. This is not pretending, this is hot pot. Hody stretched out his fist and punched the air in front of him. A blast. The fist and Sharkwa Zhengchen exploded with a bang. The huge air wave will open, overturn, and fly everything around. The Murloc pirates who originally wanted to come to besiege Jinbei together were knocked away by the hurricane. For a while, no one dared to come. Hee, Jinbei, don't think you're really strong. 35. Hody sneered, reached out and took out a jug from his arms, raised his head and took a big gulp. Hiccup. He wiped his mouth and put the jug back. Even though the breath became fierce, the muscles on his body swelled heavily. A blue blood vessel appeared on the surface of the skin. Blood flowed. Even Hodi's voice became a little hoarse. Jinbei, let's see how strong. 147 is the murloc created by human power. He punched Jinbei with a punch. Although the fighting method is very rough, the degree of ferocity in it is no less than that of Shawa Zhengchen. The fighting methods honed in the sewers of the Fishman Island since childhood have allowed Hodi to survive until now. He even went all the way up, making him the captain of the Murloc pirates. Such a person's fighting style must not be underestimated. But okay, Jinbei never underestimates any opponent. Murloc karate, 1 million tons of shark boxing. The two were fighting together. The surrounding buildings are in jeopardy. The Straw Hat Pirates were also approached by the strong men of the Fishman Pirates. In front of Lu Chen, stood a harpy-shaped banshee. This is a fruit-capable person, snow fruit. Obviously it's under the sea. It's obviously summer. Suddenly there were snowflakes all around. In the blink of an eye, a thick layer of white snow was piled up for hundreds of meters. Even more frightening is the chill that seeps into the bone marrow. It's so cold. Lu Chen exhaled a long white breath. A layer of frost has condensed on his eyelashes, and his body temperature is still dropping rapidly. In just 2 short breaths, Lu Chen's face turned pale. I didn't expect that the legendary bounty amounted to 1 billion Baileys. The talented trainer of the Straw Hat Pirates, Lu Chen, would be so fragile. The harpy fluttered its wings and landed on the snow-covered branches, looking at Lu Chen from a distance and laughing. What can I do? I'm just a trainer and not a fighter like Luffy Zoro. He pretended to look up unprepared, and a red light flashed in his eyes. The sky and the earth were covered by the swirling snow. Lu Chen only saw a wing flashing in front of him, and there was a harpy's tender laughter around him. Red-eyed Lu Chen, I have already read your profile. Your ability is probably to use your eyes to create illusions to deal with others, but there is a drawback, that is, you need the other party to look at your eyes before you release it. Also, your eyes turn red when released. As long as I don't look you in the eyes and don't come close to you, what can you do to me? Listening to the harpy's laughter, Lu Chen rubbed his brows and sighed with a headache. Special. There is something wrong with this pirate world. That is the power of intelligence is too powerful. No matter where you fought, what kind of abilities you used, as long as you used them, they would always be recorded. The most important is, you may know more than you know. Then this information is not expensive. As long as you buy a newspaper for a few Baileys, you can get most of the information you want to know from it. As the trainer of the Straw Hat Pirates, Lu Chen has a unique positioning. After all, there is no such position on other ships. And his fighting power is equally astonishing. In addition, the news of training Luffy, Zoro, Chopper, Usopp and others spread out, causing the outside attention to him to be several times higher than that of others. Marine set his bounty at 1 billion Baileys, which also saw the limitless horror future of the trainer system in his hands. If every pirate can train like this, even if Marine has a backer, there are 3 admirals, and there is an invincible hero Garp. In the end, I am afraid there is only the fate of being beheaded. Lu Chen couldn't help but miss the Hokage world. Even if the other party knows your abilities, it is difficult to guess how and how to use your abilities. Just try first. The power of Sharingan is most beneficial in the process of temptation. But in the world of pirates, with one ability, everyone knows it completely. Coercion. It's hard. The surrounding snow is getting bigger and bigger. There was no light around. All I could hear was the whistling wind and the clack of snowflakes rubbing against each other. No solution anymore. Lu Chen waved helplessly. Susanoo. In an instant, the huge Susanoo propped up a small space in the snow. Protected Lu Chen's whole body inside. Covered with blue wings. In the blizzard, it was difficult to see what was inside. The harpy laughed shrilly. Red-eyed Lu Chen, do you think you can stop my blizzard by releasing that phantom giant? Even if you can block the snow, can you block the low temperature of a blizzard? Low temperature will take away your body temperature little by little, take away your heat, make you cold all over, and die little by little. Your red-eye Lu Chen's bounty, I have won the harpy. Ha ha ha. The wind and snow was mixed with the shrill laughter of the banshee. If it were someone else, they might not be able to help rush out to find the banshee to fight. Lu Chen is different. Susanoo lifted one of his wings to reveal a slit that he could see inside. Puffs of white heat bubbled out of the small space Susanoo made. Lu Chen usually wiped his mouth and wiped his sweat, with a pot of red oil hot pot in front of him. It's too hot, hurry up, let in some more air conditioning to cool down. Susanoo raised the wings. 1.3 A large amount of cold air was swept into it with wind and snow, and part of the white hot air rose into the sky. Coolness invades. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. Comfortable. He stretched out his hand to pick up a piece of hot meat from the hot pot in front of him, and ate it fragrantly with rice. The harpy was stunned. Special. I was fighting seriously, so cautious that I didn't even dare to approach Lu Chen. He even hid the whole person in the white snow, fearing that Lu Chen would suddenly explode and kill him with one move. Her original plan was to use the absolute low temperature of the blizzard to grind Lu Chen to death bit by bit. This was also the safest method in her mind after seeing Lu Chen. But who knows? The red-eyed trainer on the Straw Hat Pirates. The man who caused a lot of marine casualties in Summit War. Chapter 287 Octopus 18. 18 Knives Dance Like the Wind. He is actually eating hot pot. The harpy felt that she was being despised. But she didn't dare to rush. After all, she actually felt that Lu Chen's behavior was in line with the identity of the other party offering a reward of 1 billion Bailey. Sack. Has been handsome. The harpy shook her head and suddenly woke up. Not good. Did she have hallucinations? Just when she was suspicious, the harpy heard Lu Chen shouting in the distance. Woman, can you make the snowstorm bigger and the temperature lower? My red oil pan is too spicy, I don't even feel your blizzard. The harpy was shocked, and then became angry. Even if you eat hot pot, you still dislike my blizzard not being big enough. It is good. Big, right. Granny will satisfy you. The harpy let out a long howl in anger. The surrounding snowstorm is getting faster and faster. The stronger the wind and snow, the lower the temperature. Reduce. Any lower. 10 minutes later, Lu Chen wiped his mouth with satisfaction, walked to the tired and paralyzed harpy O2 Banshee, and nodded at her. Thanks for the hospitality, arigato. The strength of this harpy is strong. But the courage is too small. No matter how provocative Lu Chen was, what he said, the harpies just didn't come out of the wind and snow. But she was not brooding enough about the blizzard, and desperately increased the power of the blizzard. Improve again. Then, I was exhausted myself. Take down an enemy effortlessly, and eat lunch by the way. If Luffy saw this, he would definitely be envious again. Maybe he would like to help him and develop a training plan for him to eat meat while fighting. Since I know that Lu Chen's training can give different plans according to different training purposes. Usopp, Brook, Luffy, Sanji, they all come up with some weird workouts from time to time. What a headache. I don't know how your friends are doing now. Lu Chen thought in his mind. Luffy is now flying in the sky. And he himself is inside Shirahoshi's chest. That's right. It is in the middle of the herringbone character of chest and breast. Just when they were fighting just now, Dakanix and Caribou woke up one after another. Everyone who saw the straw hat was there, especially Lu Chen. Caribou oiled the soles of the feet without hesitation. Run. But Dakanix saw Shirahoshi in front of him, his eyes lit up, he grabbed Shirahoshi without hesitation and wanted to force her away. Luffy was right next to him. Without hesitation, Dakanix was knocked away with one punch. Seeing that Luffy had angered the celestial dragons because of himself, Shirahoshi grabbed Luffy without hesitation and fled with him. Damn it, the Fishman Island must be destroyed here today. Looking at Shirahoshi who escaped with Luffy, Dakanix shouted angrily. Where are we going now? Unable to fight, Luffy looked a little bored. He looked up at Shirahoshi and asked. However, when I looked up, I could only see a large expanse of white snow and a deep gully. Luffy bowed his head again bored. Shirahoshi looked down at Luffy and said nervously, the Fishman Island has such a big thing happening now, the father and the king may not be able to handle it, I have to go to my nearby friends for help. 5. Oh, looking for friends. Luffy nodded, thinking of his friend too. Zoro. Zoro is looking at Octopus Hachi with 18 tentacles in front of him. Oh, according to the other party, he has now changed his name to Octopus Hachi. Called Octopus Little 18. Green-haired Zoro, have you seen it? This is a new sword skill I've painstakingly developed after I was defeated by you. Octopus Little Shiba's 18 tentacles hold 18 blades, and point in front of him proudly. Now I'll see how you're going to deal with my 18 knives. Zoro's jaw dropped to the ground when he saw the 10 more tentacle arms on Octopus Little Shiba. He pointed at the 18 tentacles of Octopus Xiao Shiba in surprise, with a helpless expression on his face. Do you call this a sword skill that is painstakingly studied? It's just that your octopus has a strong physique to recover, and the original tentacles were cut open and turned into new tentacles. This should be due to strong physical fitness and has something to do with sword skills. 99. Octopus Xiao Shiba looked angry, looked at Zoro and scolded. Then you know shit. Do you know how difficult it is for a person to use a weapon with 18 hands? 35. Zoro was taken aback by this question. He lowered his head and thought about it seriously, as if, it's really not easy. Back then, in order to defeat a girl, if he couldn't beat him with one sword, he practiced double swords, and if he couldn't beat him with 2 swords, he practiced 3 swords. 3 knives can't beat. He doesn't have as many hands as an octopus, so he can only work hard to improve his 3 swords. Later, he felt like he could win, but the girl. Thinking of this, Zoro's heart sank. He looked at the opponent in front of him seriously, solemnly pulled out Kaden Kyokutsu, and bit the word Hito in his mouth. I'm sorry, I underestimated you. 35. Faced with a swordsman who strives to improve himself, I will definitely give you my highest respect. Don't worry, I will definitely use all my strength to defeat you. Just watch it. 39. Forehead. Seeing Zoro's serious expression, Octopus Xiao Shiba instantly felt a big danger flashing crazily on his head. He moaned. I just want you to see the 18 cuts of octopus that I practiced, you can just deal with it a little. 147. Why use all your strength? But, such a cowardly word, Octopus 18 is absolutely impossible to say. He bit his head and raised the 18 knives in his hand with a very solemn expression. Bring it on. Whoosh. Zoro's figure disappeared in place. A knife. Straight cut Octopus 18's eyes. Although Octopus 18 was flustered in his heart, his hands were not flustered at all, and 18 knives danced like the wind. Look at my octopus balls, whirlwind 18 cuts. Octopus 18 turned into a blade storm, leaving Zoro nowhere to approach. But Zoro's eyes remained solemn. Obviously, having experienced training, even an opponent like Octopus 18 who wanted to win by numbers would not pose any threat to him for a long time. But it's alright. He will give the opponent enough respect. Others have also met their opponents. A flying opponent found Sanji and saw Sanji collapse to the ground with all his strength, and he looked disdainful. Waste. He turned to find someone else to fight. Sanji, who fell to the ground, lit the cigarette in his mouth with trembling hands. Your mother's. If he had known that there was still a battle to come, he would not have needed Night Guy at the beginning. It's a pity that the trick of the Night Guy itself is a trick that gathers all the strength and proposes it. Chapter 288 The Surrendered King is just a tactic to delay the army. Even if Sanji trains to become stronger, it will only increase the power of Yekai's move. Damn, I can't be so impulsive in the future. Sanji cursed fiercely. The others were fighting there, and he could just lie here smoking a cigarette and looking at the sky. This is really uncomfortable. This side. The battle between the Murloc pirates and the Palace Murloc guards has become more and more heated. As the battle continued and stabilized, even if the Murloc king had the support of the Murloc people, he was still losing ground. He quickly retreated to the Murloc palace. The Mermaid King is unparalleled in combat. One person singled out the entire mermaid pirate group, but he couldn't prevent the fact that other Murlocs were defeated. Jinbei was pushed away by the opposite Hody, and he laughed when he saw Hody standing there. His eyes were covered with bright red bloodshots, and the blood in his body was pulsing rapidly, making his body temperature higher than that of ordinary Murlocs. Looking at the Murloc soldiers, Murloc ministers, and Murloc people who were taken down one after another, Hody gave a hideous smile. Looking at the Murloc king who was still fighting hard in the pirate group without a trace of fatigue, he frowned. Although there are indeed many people in the Fishman pirates, he does not pay much attention to these subordinates. But now is the critical moment. It is better to have one more person standing than one more person lying down. As long as he can subdue the Fishman king and completely occupy the entire the Fishman island, he will become the new king of the Fishman island. After that, the Murlocs on the entire the Fishman island will become the goods that he trades with the land humans, and the exchange materials will greatly improve the strength of the Murloc pirates. When the Murloc pirates grow stronger, he will be able to rule the Murlocs in other places. When he has ruled all the Murlocs to his subordinates, at that time, he can attack the land. What marine? What a human. All will be turned into the dirt under their Murlocs' feet. Hody's heart was full of excitement. He reached out and took out the jug, and took 2 sips of wine. These are no ordinary wines. It was the potion of strength that he spent a lot of money and used 3 Murloc girls to exchange from the scientists of Vegapunk. As long as he drinks this, he will be able to greatly stimulate his power, as if falling into madness, not knowing the pain, increasing the speed, the reaction and so on. And now, Lord Hody, this king is not easy to deal with. A Fishman pirate ran to Hody panting, looking at the figure of the fighting king, his eyes filled with fear. This old guy can't imagine that he is so big, and he still possesses such a powerful strength. Lord Hody, what should we do? Hody looked at the king coldly, but smiled coldly. He glanced at Jinbei who was blocked by the Murloc pirates, walked over to the soldiers, and reached out to pick up a knife from the ground. The blade stopped firmly on the head of a Murloc soldier. He looked back at the Murloc king and said coldly, King, look back at your subjects. If you continue to resist, their lives will be lost. Boom. The Murloc king smashed a Murloc pirate who wanted to attack him with one punch, and smashed several Murlocs who wanted to approach with another blow. He looked back at Hody, and his eyes were suddenly attracted by the blade of the soldier's throat. Don't want. The Fishman king shouted angrily, and the sound made the ceiling of the palace rumble. Seeing the other party so eager and angry, Hody laughed. Your Majesty, have you seen it? If you hurt another one of my subordinates, I will kill one of your soldiers. When the soldiers are finished, I will kill these ordinary Murlocs, and when the ordinary Murlocs are finished, I will kill the Murloc minister. When the whole the Fishman island has been killed, the title of your king will cease to exist. 99. The Murloc king looked at Hody with red eyes, and squeezed the giant wooden stick in his hands tightly. It was as if he was about to hit Hody's head in the next second. But next second, he threw away the stick, and the pirates around him surrounded him one after another, tying the Murloc king to death with anchor chains. Damn it, it's not good to kneel down early, let the lousy waste so much effort. A Murloc pirate who was knocked over several times by the Murloc king kicked the Murloc king's head and kicked his face to the other side. Your Majesty the king. The Murloc soldiers, the Murloc people, and the Murloc minister saw the king who could have been safe and sound, but because they suffered such humiliation, everyone roared unwillingly. The Murloc soldier who was used to threaten the king slammed his head against the blade, his eyes full of determination. But how could he be faster than Hody when he was restrained? With just a slight shake, the blade was avoided, and Hody struck the Murloc soldier's neck with a backhand, knocking him unconscious. Backquote. What a foolish guy, to sacrifice his life for a foolish king. Quote. Hody shook his head disdainfully. Jinbei, who was surrounded by the Murloc pirates who were also taking the drug mad, roared angrily. But in Hody's view, it was completely incompetent fury. A bunch of idiots, see for yourself, such power. He made a fist. Such wisdom. He pointed to his head. This kind of talent is brilliant. He pointed to the messy palace again, his eyes full of hideous pride. How many of you guys can match? If you gave me the Fishmen Island, we fishmen would have long become the overlords of the ocean. Under my wise leadership, the entire Murloc family will become the overlord of the entire world, and even become the existence of celestial dragons. The more he talked, the more vigorous he became, and at the end, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Except for the pirates, everyone looked at him with disdain in their eyes. Have you Zhao? Jinbei roared even more disdainfully. Hody, you are just a guy who survived from the sewers of the Fishman Island. 35. It's not good to be, you want to be a piece of crap like celestial dragons, that's your essence. Hearing that Jinbei dared to slander his lofty ideals, Huodi's face suddenly sank. He snorted coldly, but looked at the fish man King Yun. King, I want you to give an order now and give me the power of the king. Otherwise, I will kill one by one in front of you. Who knows, this time the king refused instead. He shook his head and said, no, the fate of the Fishman Island cannot be in your hands. You'll take the Fishman Island with you for nothing. Hee, then do you think you will not be doomed now? Hody sneered. He put down the knife in his hand, and a drop of water condensed on his hand. Chapter 289 The Sea King's Creatures Meet, Lu Chen's goal is Shirahoshi. This is. Jinbei looked at the water droplets condensed on Hody's hand, and a bad idea suddenly flashed in his mind. Is this? The next second, he saw Hody shake his hand fiercely. Around the hand, a sonic boom of air is instantly generated, and the water droplets attached to the fingers are shot out like bullets. Bang, 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 bang. Several Murloc soldiers were hit by water droplets, revealing several blood holes. Like being hit by a gun. They fell to the ground on the spot, and those who didn't faint had expressions of pain on their faces and moaning. Hody laughed. See, King, Jinbei. This is the water drop pistol. Use the superpower of the Murlocs to wave and shoot water droplets like bullets. They are as powerful as the high-efficiency rifles Marine uses. This is not even the Murloc Arlong has the power of a master. You guys, why don't you admit defeat? Bang, 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 bang. A series of water droplets shot out quickly in midair, not only at the Murloc soldiers, Murloc people and Murloc ministers, but also Jinbei's side was inevitable. Jinbei had no choice but to block the Murloc pirates in front of him, grabbed Sanji on the ground, and took him out of the hull temporarily. Seeing that only the captured Murloc kings were left, Hody laughed. 147A red light flashed in his eyes, and his aura reached its peak. See, even Hexia Jinbei has left you, what hope do you have now? It's better to take refuge in me, everything in front of us will become a stepping stone for us to set foot on the human land. At that time, I will be the king of the whole world, and you will all be the supreme powers of the world. Hody made a promise on the spot. But across from him, all the Murloc soldiers, Murloc ministers, and even the common Murloc people glared at Hody. The Fishmen ministers said angrily, Hody, you have not put the Fishman Island in your heart at all, the Fishman Island and all the Fishmen are just stepping stones to realize your ambitions. Look at how you treat your subordinates, your Murloc pirates were also knocked to the ground by you. How can you be nice to the people of the Fishman Island? The others also nodded. It is for this reason that the Murloc people don't like Hody at all. Not to mention, Hody had previously kidnapped Murloc girls and became a human trafficker of his own tribe, complicit with humans. Such bad behavior makes it even more impossible for these Murloc people and soldiers to choose to support Hody. No one expects that their future children will be taken to land and turned into goods by those they support. Just for an impossible ambition. One by one, why don't you agree to me? Hody was furious. Everything he did was obviously for the future of the Fishman Island, but these stupid fish people were against him one by one. How stupid. But a little sacrifice can be exchanged for unlimited power in the future. These Murlocs can't even do simple arithmetic problems. In that case, you all die together. Hody stretched out his hands, and there was a trace of cruelty in his eyes. Bang, 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 bang. The water drop bullets were strafing like Gatling, and the Murloc soldiers and Murloc people fell one by one. Die, die, die. Hody laughed. You stupid guys, as long as you kill all those who oppose me, the Fishman Island will also belong to me. When the time comes, we will use this place as a base and gather all the Murlocs from all over the world to fight against the world. Bang, 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 bang. Looking at the fallen soldiers and people in front of his eyes, the Murloc king's eyes filled with tears. He slammed down to the ground and blocked all the water droplets and bullets with his large body. Bang, 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 bang. The water drop bullet slammed into the Murloc king. Although the strength of the Fishman king is unparalleled, the scales on his body are amazing in defense, and water droplets and bullets can't penetrate for a while. But unfortunately, Hody's water droplets and bullets kept breaking ACBD, as if he didn't know he was tired. Do not. Can't be called Murloc pistol anymore, it should be Murloc Gatling. Bang, 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 bang. The water drop bullet made a muffled sound on the Murloc king. When the same spot is hit several times by random bullets, even the Murloc king can't guarantee that it will be intact. Those seemingly indestructible scales rustled down in front of everyone. Blood. A little bit seeped out from the gaps in the scales. The Murloc king was full of pain, but looked at the Murloc soldiers, Murloc ministers, and Murloc people with satisfaction. These people are the residents of the Fishman Island. Although the status is different. But they are the same. I'm sorry, I'm an incompetent king, run away. 95. The Murloc king groaned in pain. He has determined to block his body here, as long as his subordinates can leave. Lord King, Lord King. The fish fell to their knees one after another, their heads touching the ground, and tears poured out. Many soldiers screamed in the sky, tears welling up in their eyes. I should have died on the battlefield for the Fishman Island, not for the protection of the king. Hody, let go of us. Today I will die here, and I will drive you out of the Fishman Island. Ha 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 laughed. There is an endless stream of water droplets and bullets in the hands. This has become his current pleasure. The Murloc pirates were standing around. When they saw the tortured king, they sneered sarcastically. There were even many Murloc pirates who took the opportunity to run to other parts of the palace to loot the treasures in the Murloc palace. Yo-yo, I said the brothers had a great time. A voice suddenly sounded in the space. Hody paused slightly. In the space in front of the Fishman King, a black vortex suddenly appeared. A man with red eyes came out of the space. It was Chen who came. After he had drained the harpy, he went to Shirahoshi. After all, he remembers that Shirahoshi's ability is one of the 3 ancient weapons that can destroy the world in the pirate world, Poseidon. Can summon all kinds of Sea King's creatures without limit to help her in battle. It's just that, for now, Shirahoshi's ability to summon Sea Kings isn't obvious, not even her own. It is only reflected in the usual encounter with Sea King's creatures. Sea King's creatures are very friendly to her, and when they are emotional, they will resonate with nearby Sea King's creatures. Then let the Sea Kings come to help. So, Chen wants to train Shirahoshi. Chapter 290. The seawater conducts electricity, and the king gains the power of Thor. But he looked around and saw no trace of Shirahoshi. I happened to see a battle taking place in the Murloc Palace. He hurried over. On the one hand, it intends to stop it. On the one hand, it is also to ask the whereabouts of Shirahoshi, the Murloc king. After all, it is the father who understands the daughter best, not the father. His appearance aroused Huodi's vigilance. Hody asked seriously. The trainer of the Straw Hat Pirates, Red-Eye Chen, what are you doing here? I said I came here to ask for directions, do you believe it? Chen said casually. He stretched out his hand to untie the ropes on the Murlocs, and a water drop bullet slammed into his hand. Trainer of the Straw Hat Pirates, this matter is an internal problem of the Fishman Island, and it has nothing to do with you. 5. Hody warned coldly. You leave now, and my Fishman Pirates can be friends with you in the future. Friend, farewell, I have no luck with a friend like you. Chen shook his head and reached out to lift the Murloc king from the ground. He asked suspiciously. King Murloc, where has your daughter Shirahoshi gone? I searched for a long time and couldn't find her. The Fishman King shook his head. He was unable to protect himself now, and he didn't even know where his daughter was going. Sorry, Chen, I don't know where my daughter has gone. I ask you to do me a favor. The Murloc King looked at the Murloc soldiers, ministers, and people behind him. He took a deep breath and said, please help me bring these soldiers and people to a safe place. I don't have the ability to protect them now. I just hope they can live well. 35. The Murloc soldiers, people and ministers fell to their knees and wept bitterly. The Murloc soldiers and Murloc ministers shouted angrily, no. We will protect this country with the king. This is our duty. Even if we die, we will die in our own positions. Chen took out his ears and looked at the Murloc king in front of him with a puzzled expression. Uncle Murloc, I see that you are strong and fit, obviously. I think in your state, it's no problem to fight another 200 pirates. Hearing Chen's words, the Fishman King smiled wryly. He is now tied all over, and he has long been scarred in order to block Hody's water drop bullets. A far cry from the heyday. Now even if he took up his weapon and stood up again, I am afraid there is no way to deal with so many fierce pirates. Uncle Fishman, don't underestimate yourself. Chen shook his head. Seeing the tired expression in the eyes of the Murloc king, his eyes suddenly lit up with a red circle. If that's the case, then I'll help you. I'll give you a simple training. Boom. The eyes of the Murloc king were instantly covered by Sharingan. He immediately fell into a world of nothingness. This world is empty, and the sealed stargates in the sky are filled with infinite and powerful aura. The Murloc king raised his head and looked at the infinite stargate in the sky. Even if his body was considered strong among the Murlocs, he couldn't help trembling at this moment. These breaths. Just pull one out, and they have the strength to destroy the Fishman Island with a wave of their hands. He looked at Chen in front of him, and his eyes were full of surprise. What the hell is this guy up to? I am afraid that each of these powers of his master can be comparable to a weapon that destroys the world. It's no wonder that they are all on the same boat, and Luffy, Zoro and the others have a reward of 3.5 billion Bailey. Only this guy, the reward amount can be as high as 1 billion Bailey. But, if someone can master such power, not to mention 1 billion Bailey, even if the reward is 10 billion Bailey, I am afraid it is not surprising. The Fish King was full of thoughts. Chen doesn't have as many mental activities as he does. As he waved, the star gates in the sky lit up one after another. In the starlight, the powerful breaths seemed to feel the call, and they became stronger one after another. This is how the same thing. Seeing such a situation, the Fishman King couldn't help but ask. Chen glanced at him. It's okay, I'm just picking the right strength for you. He thought for a moment. The strength of the Fishman King itself is very strong, and simply increasing the strength may not help the current affairs. It is possible to train him to acquire some other abilities. This will not only solve the current predicament perfectly, but also gain some new power. 0. Ask for flowers. Certainly, these new powers will eventually be turned into things that enhance his body and physique. Let him use Susanoo and Sharingan better. It's up to you. Chen's eyes lit up. He reached out and summoned a stargate. One light. A rainbow-colored light burst onto the ground from the unlocked stargate. A man with blonde hair, a little beard, armor and cape, and a small silver hammer in his hand appeared in the fantasy world. This is. The Fishman King looked at this man with a trace of confusion on his face. This person looks a little different from the people in the pirate world. He carried the breath of thunder and lightning, and there was something indescribable in his body. That kind of thing, in Shirahoshi and his wife Empress Otahime, he felt the same. Divinity. Is this the divine nature that has long since disappeared? The Murloc King was surprised. Lu Chen introduced him. Look, this guy is called Thor, and he comes from a place called Marvel. He is a powerful deity, not only super powerful, but also masters the power of lightning. I think you have mastered the power of thunder and lightning. If you can obtain the power of thunder, you must be able to use it to the ultimate. As long as you are in the water, I believe that no one will be your opponent. Lu Chen said confidently. This power is 1,000 choices for him. It can be said that it is not the strongest, but it must be the most suitable. Think about it. Sea water conducts electricity. Even if the Murloc King can't beat others, he can lead them into the sea. As long as it is discharged, a large area of the surrounding sea will be turned into a sea of lightning. Whoever goes in will have a tingling scalp. Really, physically numb. For the little guys like the Murloc pirates, as long as the Murloc King stretched out his hand, these guys would fall to the ground on the spot. How can one person single out this group of people, that guy Hody? Directly fly the dragon riding the face. A ray of light lit up in the eyes of the Fishman King beside him. He remembered an ancient legend among the Murlocs. According to legend, when the Murlocs first started, they had a god. Factory. Chapter 291 The Legendary God of Murlocs. That god has a mighty body. The upper body is a man, the lower body is a fish, and his eyes are golden pupils with infinite power. It can set off a tsunami out of thin air on the sea, and it can also stand on the top of the highest wave in a storm and save the Murlocs caught in the storm. That god is able to summon powerful sea creatures. He wears a golden crown and always gives golden hope to all sea creatures. Holding the sea god trident in his hand, he can shred all the enemies in front of him. It is said that he also has a golden bracelet. Can heal all pain. He is the legend that has been circulating among the Murlocs, a stalwart god of Murlocs. Poseidon. Poseidon. It is precisely because the image of the Murloc King is similar to the legendary Poseidon that it will be able to gain great public support. But he knew. Just a little bit of strength from his masters, 147. There is simply no way to compare with the legendary sea god Poseidon. The other party is a god who can directly hold the thunder in the sky and use it as a weapon. But now, he was able to touch a little bit of the power of the gods. At this time, the Murloc King suddenly remembered what the Murloc prophet had said to him at that time. On the Straw Hat Pirates, the guy with the straw hat will definitely destroy the Fishman Island, but the other one in black is said to be a trainer named Red Eye. Be sure to know him and get close to him. He carries the hope that our Murlocs can return to prosperity. He will save our entire Murlocs. At that time, the Murloc King did not know what this hope meant. But he believed the words of the Murloc prophets. That's why he spared no effort to get close to Lu Chen and Luffy. With Shirahoshi captured, Hody's mutiny, and Celestial Dragons beaten, the Straw Hat Pirates' help to the Fishman Island is not obvious. To be frank, in this case, he no longer believed what the Murloc prophet said, that Lu Chen was the Murloc's hope. But, now, he deeply understood, how true was the prophecy of the Murloc prophets. This man in black clothes with a pair of strange red eyes, he really is the savior of the Murlocs. He didn't directly save the Murlocs. But, he has brought himself the power to save the Murlocs. The god that all Murlocs worship. Poseidon. As long as he has the power of the sea god, no matter where he is, it doesn't matter what position he is. All will be called to obey the call of the Murloc King. This is the unique charm of the gods. The Fishman King let out a long sigh and solemnly looked at the young man in front of him. Red-eyed Lu Chen, thank you. Lu Chen didn't know what a powerful thing he had created for the other party. You must know that although the power of Marble Thor is very strong, there are many people who are stronger than him. Take the simplest example. Thor's sister Hela, god of death. With one hand, you can crush Thor's favorite Thor's meow hammer. With such a powerful power to control lightning, I am afraid that no one can subdue her. In the end, he gave the eternal enemy of the gods, and even took the initiative to give the opponent the Shinigami fire for resurrection. This is the forced plot kill. In Lu Chen's view, giving something like this is the most powerful. It's just that the power of death does not match the Murloc King. He didn't even think about it. Accept this power first, and I'll see what the training plan is. Lu Chen reached out and turned Thor into light and guided it into the body of the Murloc King. Now that time is running out, he doesn't have time to give so many things for the Murloc King to choose. If you can solve the crisis, you need a bicycle. As long as the training plan can be completed quickly, the Murloc King's wave can be considered stable. In the face of such a good king who serves the country and the people, Lu Chen still has a good impression. It is good. The Murloc King agreed. After getting a response, the trainer system responded instantly. Ding, the training object has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Murloc King. Training goals. The power of Thor, the power of Master Endless Thunder and Lightning. Training plan. Defeat Hody and use the power of lightning to stun 100 Murloc pirates, 0 100s. Close black lens bracket. Lu Chen's eyes lit up. He had no idea that the training plan this time would be so simple. It's rare that my trainer system doesn't do anything. Certainly, this also has to do with the gap between strength and training objects. When Lu Chen trained Chopper, Brook, and Zoro before, it was often because the strength he wanted to get through training was too far from their own strength. For example, when Zoro wants to get Kaden Kyokutsu at the beginning, people who know a little bit should know how big the gap between the two sides is. In order to make up for this gap, the trainer system formulated the training content of killing a 500-meter Sea King's creature. Look at Luffy again. It is also training, but it only allows him to comprehend the second block and third block of the originally developed power in advance. So his training tasks are often bizarre, but much simpler than others. It's just that after training to the point where you lose your strength, you insist and keep your mouth shut for 100 days without speaking. The same is true of the Murloc King. Although his own strength is different from the legendary Poseidon, the system determines that the two are of the same type. Then, before training, the Murloc King also possesses a small amount of lightning power. These all greatly reduce the difficulty of training. These things, if Lu Chen can understand the system itself, can easily be summed up. But for the system, he just needs to be able to accomplish what he wants. So, Your Majesty, your training mission is down with Horde, then use the power of lightning to stun the pirates of 100 Murloc pirates. 35. That way you can have the power of Thor. Lu Chen looked at the Murloc King and said. The Murloc King nodded. 1.3. Dealing with this guy Hade is what he should do, and now it is just a reward for what he originally did. This is not too simple for him. Bring it on. The Murloc King looked at Lu Chen. At this moment, he has completely let go of the Straw Hat Pirates. Although these guys are named pirates, their essence is more like kind-hearted explorers. It's completely different from those vicious pirates who burn, kill and loot. The fate of the Fishmen Island is in their hands. The Murloc King was relieved. It is good. Seeing that the Murloc King was ready, Lu Chen stopped talking nonsense. He waved his hand to release the illusion around him. It seems very slow in the illusion, but in reality, it is just a blink of an eye. Hode was looking at Lu Chen vigilantly, and water droplets condensed on his hands. The final battle of the 292nd Octopus Pirates. Boom, 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 boom. The air-breaking sonic boom exploded in his ears, and the dense water droplets turned into roaring bullets, breaking the air and shooting at Lu Chen. But, it's too late. The Fishman King stared, and his body suddenly bounced off the ground. The huge body turned into a mountain in midair. Boom. All the water droplets hit his hard scales one after another, and the sound of crackling was heard. Lu Chen stretched out his hand and put all the soldiers, ministers and people in front of him into the Kamui space. Let the Murloc King have no worries. Roar. The Fishman King let out a roar, and his body erupted with a powerful aura. With a bang, the iron chain that was originally tied to his body and used to hold the boat support was stretched to the point of being deformed. The Murloc pirates who originally rushed towards the Murloc King were so frightened that they stopped. I'm Sloth. These Murloc pirates widened their eyes, and their jaws dropped to the ground in shock. This is so. Even the iron that holds the ship can't be bound. Hastily, these Fishman pirates only felt a sense of absurdity in their hearts. They hurriedly turned around and ran back. With such strength, even if O2 is their captain, Hode can't do it. Faced with the full-strength Murloc King, no one will not feel afraid. Now, even Hode felt terrified. Seeing that the Murloc pirates under him turned around and ran away, Hode's angry punch knocked down a fleeing Murloc in front of him. Bastards. Stop all of you guys. Go forward. Hack him for me. Who can kill this old guy? I'll give him 100,000 Baileys. Hode growled angrily. In the hearts of Fishman pirates who are filled with fear, few will stay for each other. There is only one word in their minds now: escape. Escape. Escape from the Fishman Island. Get out of this place. The farther you escape, the better. A group of scum should die in the sewers and be eaten by rats to eat your dirty bodies. Looking at the unstoppable wave of escape, Hode could only curse in anger. He looked at the Fishman King in front of him, and a trace of horror also flashed in his eyes. He remembered. Just now, it was just the red-eyed Lu Chen of the Straw Hat Pirate, who was said to be a trainer, and said a few words to the Murloc King. This guy is actually the same as taking a strengthening drug. Do not. Wrong. The power of this guy's eruption now is even more powerful than he took the strengthening medicine. Reaching out his hand to take out the strengthening potion he had specially exchanged from Vegapunk, Hode was confused. This hole, it looked like a fake in his hand. Does that red eye really have the ability to make people have invincible strength? Trainer. What kind of profession is this? Hode was full of doubts. At this time, the Murloc King's beard swelled. Boom. 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 The broken iron cables turned into cannonballs and shot all around. Those Murloc pirates who didn't have time to leave were shot by these iron cables. If they were lucky, at most they had a blood hole in their bodies. If you are a bit unlucky, most of your body will be smashed by the iron rope that is shot directly. He fell to the ground on the spot, only the breath left. They screamed, but no one will sympathize with them. Even the pirates behind him were even more horrified when they saw such a scene. He rushed forward in a panic, ignoring his companions in front of him. The entire mermaid palace was filled with wailing sounds of pain. In this wailing, the Murloc King stood up slowly. Because of the existence of the system task, the power of thunder and lightning in him was fully activated. His whole body was shrouded in flickering lightning. Electric light danced above the fingertips. His eyes turned into a bright silver color, and a surging power of thunder and lightning burst out in his body. Standing behind him, Chen watched this scene with satisfaction. This power of thunder and lightning really matches well with the Murloc King. Hody, I didn't consider your existence in the Murloc sewers at the beginning. It was my dereliction of duty as a king. Akoku looked into Hody's eyes, and he stood up straight. Full of majesty like a sea god. But even if I'm at fault, you can't help humans kidnap our Murloc girls just to satisfy yourself. 35. Even if it is me, there is no way I can forgive you for such a thing. Facing the full-strength Murloc King, Hody also smiled. He opened the wine bottle in his hand. Dune drank all the potions in one breath. Reached out and threw the wine bottle aside. A trace of strength poured into his hand, and all the blood vessels in his body were pumping blood rapidly. Hody's originally bluish-white skin turned a rare red at this moment. Stop being hypocritical. Feeling the power that fills every cell in his body, Hody feels omnipotent. A strong confidence swelled in his mind. He looked at the fish man king in disdain and sneered. I no longer feel that what I encountered at the beginning was suffering. Instead, I am very grateful for the encounters at the beginning. Those encounters made me see the essence of this world clearly. I already know how everything in this world needs to be created. That's power. He took a few breaths and waited for the potion to fully work. He looked at King Murloc 147, who clearly possessed great power but had a trace of compassion in his eyes. A boredom arose in my heart. Don't look at me like that, I don't need pity. I'm not pitiful either. Hody roared angrily, and his hands condensed water droplets. Desperately, the Murloc King fired a teardrop pistol. But the king at this moment is not at all the king who was threatened just now, who could only defend. He gently stretched out his hand and waved it heavily in midair. A huge hurricane suddenly appeared in front of him, and all the water droplets that flew over were sent to the other side by the hurricane fan. Hody, it's my fault, the Mermaid King said in a deep voice. But he stood up straight and clenched his fists hard. If you do something wrong, you need to be punished. I did something wrong as king, so you came out of the sewers and rebelled against me. You became the Murloc pirates, colluding with humans to sell your compatriots to become slaves. It also needs to be punished. When all this is over, I will come before you in person, and apologize to the people living in the sewers of the Fishman Island. 99. The Murloc King raised his fist high, with silver electric light condensed on it. Now, fall for me. 99. His tail slammed on the ground, and the Murloc King's huge body was ejected towards Hody like a spring. Come and try, I am the strongest. Hody stretched out his hands. Chapter 293, The Ship of Destruction, Noah. Boom, boom, boom. In the Fishman Palace, it seemed that a small earthquake had occurred. Hody fell heavily to the ground. His body was pitch black, the color of coke struck by lightning. But people are still alive. The Murloc King stood aside. He was slightly panting, but nothing serious. Just looking at Hody on the ground, his eyes were a little uncomfortable. This represents a loophole in his loving stewardship. The Fishman Island looks beautiful on the surface, but behind the scenes there are many fishmen living in hardships and unhappy lives. Even desperate. Only in such an environment can a mermaid like Hody be raised, who is full of hatred for his compatriots. It's not Hody's fault. Chen didn't know what the other party was thinking. He reached out and released the Murloc soldiers, Murloc ministers, and Murloc people. The voice of the system came from his mind. Training object. Mermaid King, half of the current task is completed. Defeat the captain of the mermaid pirates, Hody. Close black lens bracket. Remaining mission. Stun the mermaid pirate 13/100ths. It seems that the Fishman Island is not over yet. Chen nodded. He took a step forward. Just when the king of the mermaid was about to find the mermaid pirate to complete the task, the entire palace hall shook violently. Huge cracks appeared in the ceiling. Pieces of rubble fell from the ceiling. The two suddenly woke up. Quick, leave the mermaid palace. The mermaid king shouted at the others. He resisted the crumbling ceiling, and left the place after everyone had left safely. Looking at the collapsed mermaid palace, everyone's heart is full of anxiety. So what happened? Everyone looked up to the sky. Mermaid Island is hidden under the seabed of 100,000 meters, and the light comes entirely from the planted marine luminous plants and the giant bubble tree in the center of the island. The bubble giant can not only produce a lot of bubbles. It provides fresh oxygen to the human race and mermaid living in it, and is also an important pillar to support the huge coating on the outside of the Fishman Island. But at the moment, outside the Fishman Island, a huge white submarine appeared. The submarine was like a huge beluga whale swaying on the bottom of the sea, slamming into the coating ruthlessly as its body circulated. It is precisely because of this that the whole the Fishman Island is shaking. What's the matter? Who is it? Who is driving that white submarine, and why would he want to destroy the coating? 55 feet. Crazy, crazy. The gathered fish people shouted fiercely. Now, the rest of the straw hats also came over. Sanji fell like a broken sack on Jinbei's broad shoulders, the cigarette from his mouth crooked. Now, he burst into tears. This is forcing. He is really pretending to be dead. Everyone looked at the sky. There were not only Murlocs, but also humans, pirates and so on. And this moment, the huge submarine in the sky suddenly stopped, less than half a meter away from the coating. A man in a space suit came out. Standing on the submarine, he looked at the Fishman Island under his feet with contempt and indifference. Dakin Ix, after leaving before, he found his subordinates. Directly used the privilege of celestial dragons, allowing them to occupy the ship of salvation under the Fishmen Island, which is the same as the sea god Poseidon in the legend of Fishmen. Noah. It is said that the ship itself was the ship of Poseidon, the god of the sea. But at the moment, in the hands of Dakin Ix, it became a weapon to destroy the Fishmen Island. Don't hand Shirahoshi to me, you guys don't need to exist anymore. Dakin Ix sneered. The Murloc King panicked. He looked up at the aloof Dakin Ix, pleadingly shouted, Lord Celestial Dragons, please, let us go. 35. We the Fishmen Island have always respected you and have never disobeyed the orders of the Celestial Dragons. There are still a large number of innocent fish people on the Fishmen Island. If I am wrong, you can punish me alone. As the king of the Fishmen Island, I am willing to replace others and accept all the punishments from adults. The Mermaid King's voice was sad, and he even fell to his knees, smashing his head heavily on the ground. When he raised his head, his forehead was already bright red. Just this moment, Dakin Ix's eyes have completely lost the existence of the other party. He opened his hands, as if the whole world was standing behind him. Dakin Ix proudly publicized, the Fishmen Island no longer needs to exist. As for Shirahoshi, I'll send someone to take her to my palace, put her in shackles, and make her a plaything under my crotch. 5. As for you, he. He lowered his head, his eyes full of ridicule, just use your deaths to wash away the humiliation I have suffered. 55. Collide. One command. The ship of salvation. Noah starts. Like a huge battering ram, it slammed into the coating of the Fishmen Island with unparalleled momentum. Backquote. Don't think about it. Lu Chen's face flashed hostility. Eyes move. Kamui. Susanoo. With a blue wing and the movement of space, he came to the sky in an instant. In front of this gigantic ship of saviors, even Susanoo, like a little giant, is now like a mantis overestimated. Give me. Stop. Come on. Lu Chen shouted angrily. All the power in the body is fully activated. Susanoo's hands were firmly against the coating, pushing Noah outside. Boom. The bright red flames lit up, and Lu Chen opened his mouth and swallowed the flames into his stomach. Natsu's Dragon Slayer magic. Endless metal came flying, layer upon layer, forming Susanoo's armor. Magneto. Magnetic control. The blood was pumping in the blood vessels, and the heart beat faster, without taking the strengthening medicine of Vegapunk Demo Jiao, but obtained similar or even stronger power. Luffy. Second gear. And also. Magical, bizarre, layer upon layer of power. Finally. The legendary ship of salvation Noah, like a huge ship on a huge island, stopped in front of Lu Chen. Just the iron body on Susanoo crunched evenly. The slightly trembling arms showed how much strength Lu Chen used. Damn. Dakin Ix was furious. He looked back at his subordinates with a look of anger. What's the matter with you guys? It's not that this ship is the most powerful ship in the world. Why is there just one person blocking it now? Do you know the cost of cheating celestial dragons? These men looked at each other in dismay, and no one dared to speak. Lu Chen, however, raised his head. Laughed. Chapter 294 Tianhe is coming, the Sudden Sea Kings. Celestial dragons, just a bunch of scum. There was a red circle in his eyes, like a blood-stained flame, cold and ruthless. Among Noah, a person had a faint fear on his face. They never thought of it. The pirate in front of him was so bold. Not only did he directly disobey the Celestial Dragon's order in front of him, he disobeyed the Celestial Dragons, and he even dared to speak out against the Celestial Dragons. Abusive Celestial Dragons. Noah trembled slightly in front of him. Although he was still pushing forward slowly, his speed was extremely slow. Who would have thought that a mere human pirate could stop such a heavy ship? But everything in front of him could not last long. After all, Noah's weight is unimaginable. Even if Lu Chen has an incomparably powerful strength, there are even various power blessings. But it can only barely compete with Noah. But after holding on for a while, Lu Chen's hands also began to shake violently. The body is retreating a little bit. The coating in front of him has already shown a huge concave state. But Noah didn't mean to stop at all. Although slow, it keeps pushing forward. Even if Lu Chen carried it hard, I am afraid that after a minute or two, Noah's bow would break through the coating. By the time, a large amount of seawater poured into the Mermaid Island, like a Tianhe coming down. Whether it is 147 pairs of human beings on the Fishmen Island or fish people on the Fishmen Island, it is a huge disaster. Damn it. 99. In Lu Chen's eyes, Kamui suddenly realized. But Noah's body is too big, even the Kamui space that can take everything, can't put Noah in the door. Seeing that Lu Chen was almost unable to hold on. Dakin Ix put down his anger towards those subordinates and immediately disappeared. He stood on Noah's bow, leaning on crutches, and laughed at Lu Chen. A trash pirate who also wants to disobey the orders of celestial dragons. Who gave you the courage? Fool. Get out of the way for me now, kneel on the ground and lick my shoes, and I will forgive you mercifully. Hey, you pirate, do you hear me? Seeing that the other party didn't answer his own pity, this made Dakin Ix extremely annoyed. He even walked up to Lu Chen and used the tip of his crutch to stab him in the head. Lu Chen tilted his head slightly and avoided the crutches. He looked at Dakin Ix coldly. The cold and murderous gaze made this cowardly celestial dragons tremble, and he staggered back several steps. Heard it. Lu Chen ACBD said coldly. Dakin, you wait for me. After this matter is over, I won't let you regret seeing me, even if I live in vain in this life. Frost to the bone. Even the aloof Dakin X has always liked to show all kinds of falsification in front of others, and use the oppression of his own identity to humiliate others. At this moment, I also felt a chill in my heart. Especially those eyes of Lu Chen. He just glanced at it and felt as if he had seen a demon. But the nobility of the past and the present scene made him calm. He, what can you do now? Dakin X sneered. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and scorned Lu Chen in front of him. He took out a long sharp knife from behind him. Waving in front of Lu Chen. Dakin X laughed. Other celestial dragons like to use guns to deal with their enemies, for fear that you bastards will stain their souls with blood. 99. I'm the opposite of them. Rather than using a gun to deal with the pariah cleanly, I prefer to use a knife to make the pariah fall into despair. I don't know how many knives you can resist. Seeing that Lu Chen wanted to move, Dakin X quickly warned, want to move. You can't move. Once you move, the coating will be instantly crushed by this ship. The whole the Fishmen Island will perish in your hands. Now, he lifted the knife, with a ferocious joy on his face. Are you going to save your own life, or are you going to protect the Fishmen Island behind you? Oh, what a hard choice. Dakin X let out a hearty laugh, and the machete fell instantly. Lu Chen's fingers twitched slightly. The knife in Dakin X's hand flew to Lu Chen's side instantly. Fortunately, Dakin X let go quickly, otherwise he would have been caught by Lu Chen. You are. He widened his eyes in astonishment. Lu Chen looked indifferent, looking at the pig-like celestial dragons like a fool. This knife is steel. As soon as the voice fell, the knife went from somewhere to where. Directly rushed to Dakin, chased on top of Noah and made him scream. But because of distraction, Noah approached inside again. The Fishmen Island. At stake. Damn. Unbearable. Dakin X pulled out his gun and fired several shots without hesitation. The swift bullet pierced through the coating. It also passed through Lu Chen's head. While all power is used to fend off Noah, Kamui space itself is a passive skill. Even if you don't usually pay attention, it also automatically dodges attacks. Seeing that Lu Chen could not be eliminated with a gun, Dakin X finally panicked. He looked at everything in front of him. Instead, he sat slumped on the ground, covered in cold sweat and gasping for breath. Facing Lu Chen, he finally had a look of fear. Quick, add all your strength and hit this pariah for me. Hit him to death for me. He stood up and shouted angrily to the subordinates behind him. The rest stood up one after another. Yes, they stepped on the speed control valve under their feet. The whole nose ship was like a whale on the bottom of the sea, making a low cry. Boom, boom, boom. Nose power increased again. Lu Chen's hands were slightly bent, and even he couldn't completely stop this kind of power. But right now, he suddenly felt Noah in his hand lightly. The pressure that was like a mountain was instantly relieved by more than half. He felt unusually relaxed, with a hint of doubt on his face. This is, ow, a giant sea king's manatee burst out from the depths of the sea. It swept past Lu Chen in front of him, and directly slammed into Noah with all of its strength. Boom. Huge waves exploded underwater. Noah also separated a part of the distance. With the appearance of a Sea King's manatee, a large swarm of Sea King's creatures emerge from the bottom of the sea. They are like the first Sea King's manatee, as if they haven't seen Lu Chen in front of them. One by one, they exerted their strength and rushed towards Noah fiercely. Roar. The Sea Kings roared in unison. The Sea Kings, who fight as soon as they see it and decide the winner, are united for the first time. Chapter 295 Shirahoshi, The Return of Luffy. When Lu Chen was puzzled, he saw a pink mermaid swimming out from behind the group of Sea King's creatures. It's Princess Shirahoshi. Lu Chen's face moved. Hey, Lu Chen sang. Luffy, wearing a yellow straw hat, stuck his head out from Shirahoshi's chest and waved happily at Lu Chen. Me and Shirahoshi went and called her friends to help. How are you doing here? It turned out to be Shirahoshi. Hearing what Luffy shouted, Lu Chen breathed a sigh of relief. If it was the Sea Kings that Shirahoshi had called, that would explain, make sense. And don't worry that these Sea King's creatures are physically combative, making no Adam the enemy. If so, after finishing Noah, they still need to find a way to deal with these Sea King's creatures. In Lu Chen's view, this group of Sea King's creatures can be much more troublesome than Noah in front of him. Lu Chen sang. Shirahoshi came to Lu Chen, and she looked up and down at Lu Chen in Susanoo, with a hint of worry on her face. Are you okay? She saw Lu Chen from a distance resisting Noah, the ship of salvation, and hurriedly asked friends from Sea Kings to help. Fine. Lu Chen shook his sore hand and nodded to Shirahoshi. There was fire in his eyes. Although he knew that Celestial Dragons was very arrogant in the world of pirates, he never thought that the other party could be so arrogant. Even arrogant to a little stupid. It wasn't that Noah dragged him just now that he couldn't deal with Dakin X with all his mind. The Celestial Dragons would have been hacked to death by him on the ship just now. He looked at Noah. Now, there were 5 huge Sea King's creatures behind Noah, struggling to hold Noah together. Pull it away from Mermaid Island. But Noah is really heavy. Not to mention, there are still people in it desperately manipulating it, and Dakin X frantically made them collide with the Mermaid Island. These 5 huge Sea King's creatures are usually capable of overturning the existence of giant fleets. At this moment, he can only try his best to maintain balance with Noah. Trash, trash, a bunch of trash. They're a bunch of pariahs, you can't do anything if you do something. Dakinix in Noah was furious. He waved his cane and knocked down a subordinate who usually followed him. The other party fell to the ground with his head covered, and a trace of blood escaped from his fingers. But he didn't dare to say a word, not even a word. He quickly stood up from the ground and took his seat again, and together with the others, he worked hard to control Noah, to let this ferocious beast crush the Fishman Island in front of him. Others bowed their heads and stepped frantically. There are more than 100 subordinates in the entire Noah operation room, but there is only one celestial dragons of Dakinix. But no one dared to stand up and resist. Not a single person dared to stand up to express dissatisfaction and anger at this injustice and this kind of oppression. They only dared to bow their heads, step on hard, and follow the orders of celestial dragons hard. Step, step, step. It was clear that Noah's operating room was bright. But their atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Let Dakinix let out an angry roar alone. Everyone is silently expecting. Don't let this anger fall on yourself. Boom, boom. At this time, the hull shook for a while. The people in the control room looked up and looked outside. A huge blue figure, wearing armor and a heavy helmet, clenched his fists and hammered Noah's hull frantically. When Dakinix looked through Noah's hull, he saw a pair of crimson eyes in the blue portrait. The whole body could not help but tremble slightly. He never imagined that this guy would be so relentless. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* Dakin Ix roared angrily. The others fell silent. Faced with the wrath of the celestial dragons, no one wants to suffer at this time. Lord Dakin, Lord Dakin. A humble voice is calling. Dakin Ix looked down. It was the guy who was knocked to the ground by his stick just now. Now, the guy had a look of fear on his face. When he saw celestial dragons looking at him, a smile appeared on this guy's face. Even the bleeding wound under his head covered with one hand didn't hurt so much. Damn, let the fart go. Looking at this guy, Deacon was so angry that he stopped fighting and kicked him to the ground with one kick. Zero. Ask for flowers. The subordinate fell heavily to the ground, but he didn't care about other things at all, and said quickly. Lord Dakin, Noah is actually a living ship, as long as we can activate its consciousness. Then the performance of the whole ship will increase tenfold, even 100 times. At that time, even if we don't need us, this living ship will destroy everything here. 35. This subordinate's eyes were full of fire. The others stared blankly at the guy. They couldn't understand why this guy told Dakin Ix about this kind of thing. But Dakin Ix can't manage that much. Hearing the method that could destroy everything here, his eyes lit up immediately. It is good. He tapped the subordinate's head lightly with his cane. You boy, you have a great future. Just do as you say. As long as you can activate Noah, let it kill the Fishman Island and that pesky pirate. I, Dakin Ix, are here, officially announced today. You will become my Dakin Ix's domestic slave. 35. No matter where I go in the future, you can follow me wherever I go. Even with these guys in front of you, you have the right to use and beat them at will. When they heard Dakin Ix's words, everyone was stunned. There was panic in their eyes. Some even shook their heads desperately. Obviously, no one would have expected this result. That subordinate was surprised, and knelt down in front of Dakin Ix on the spot. Thank you Lord Dakin, thank you Lord Dakin. When he stood up, the temperament of the whole person had changed. His back was arched like a hyena, and in front of Dakin Ix, who was shorter than himself, he was as flattering as a dog. But raised his head and looked at his former subordinate, the smile on the corner of his mouth was greedy, and the slightly narrowed eyes were ruthless. Chilling. Everyone bowed their heads. They looked at everything in front of them, and out of the corner of the eye looked at the friend who was following Dakin Ix, and became uneasy in their hearts. Turn it on. Dakin Ix stood in front of the control room, looking at the Fishman Island and Lu Chen with red eyes. His heart is full of ruthless revenge. Factory. Chapter 296 shocked everyone, the living Noah. And Luffy, who was sitting on Princess Shirahoshi's chest with a sincere and pure face. Everything at the moment. It made Dakin Ix's eyes bear a raging flame of anger. It should have been his plaything. Now it's defiled by a filthy little child who appeared out of nowhere. All killed. All killed. The whole world belongs to their celestial dragons, just a rare murloc. Do not. And the Fishman Island. It was all to blame for the damned Fishman King, although he was extremely respectful every time he saw him, he dared to refuse his pursuit of his daughter. Correct. And the damn red-eyed pirate, I don't know where he got his power from. Even Noah can resist. Damn it. All be damned. I am obviously a celestial dragons, why did I encounter rejection? Why is 147 intimidated by dirty pirates? Now, only absolute madness remained in Dakin Ix's mind. Just to destroy this place. Destroy everything that makes him feel humiliated. A strange vibration came from the entire nose hole, making a humming sound in everyone's ears. Even on the stools, which were originally rows of people, there was a click sound. It was as if the tight bones began to loosen and move. Everyone left their seats one after another, and they looked in horror at Noah, who was originally a big ship, and the changes happened in front of them. Originally the lines on the inside of the boat were loosened little by little and turned into movable joints one by one. Even people in the operating room heard a heartbeat of bang dong, bang dong, bang dong. In the originally quiet and empty Noah, suddenly there was a heavy, low-pitched breath like a creature. Together, everyone in the control room began to breathe heavily. Ha ha ha, it worked. I made it. They looked at the blood-covered but excited subordinate in the distance, with panic in their hearts. Plus. Everyone's hearts are roaring, and a huge panic has occupied everyone's hearts. Ow. In the whole world, there seemed to be a low cry of an ancient giant beast. Now, no one could resist the fear anymore, and more than 100 subordinates turned around and ran away. Dakin Ix and that subordinate also fled quickly. Because the entire operating room has begun to wriggle, as if it has become a creature's stomach. Outside, everyone was equally shocked. Even Lu Chen brought Shirahoshi and Luffy back to the vicinity of the Fishman Island. He looked at No's giant ship that turned into a white giant whale in the sky. Even as a traveler, he was full of horror and shock. What the hell is this? Lu Chen looked confused. After all, in this section, there is no one in the plot of One Piece. What's up with that huge, flat-bodied, white-boned whale? Lu Chen felt that his head was not enough. Which brother who has read the original work of One Piece, please come and help, and tell me quickly. What the hell is going on here? But it's too late to know now. After all, the big ship that suddenly came to life, as if going crazy at the moment, slammed into the coating in front of him. Just a moment. The coating was knocked out and dented. Noah didn't feel the slightest stop. He raised his head high and continued to collide with the coating in front of him. It just woke up. There is not much awareness. It's just that the body that has been sleeping for too long is very uncomfortable when it wakes up. And its head is still a little chaotic. Only act on instinct. This kind of thing is like waking up in a daze while dreaming, thinking you were in a dream but actually peeing in reality. Your brother in the lower bunk woke up on the spot with hot urine. It's all about yourself. It's everyone else who is unlucky. At this moment, No's Moby DK behaves just like yours. All the residents on the Fishman Island looked at the beluga whale in disbelief. They couldn't believe it either. I used to pass by often, and even took this sinking ship of salvation as a story, and when one generation told the next generation, who could have imagined it? The ship is alive. Boom. Another violent blow. Everyone looked at everything in front of them, and their hearts also tightened with the impact of the giant whale. Boom, 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 boom. In the sky, the coating finally couldn't support it, and was knocked out of a huge hole by the beluga whale. Seawater crashly poured down from the hollow. Huge bubbles emerged from the Fishman Island, and one of them exploded in front of the beluga whale. The scattered air made Noah Moby DK stunned, and temporarily stopped in place. Hurry up. The Fishman King ordered everyone to go to the pirate ship, but he rushed to the sky with a group of people, trying to repair the coating. Sharingan Kamui illusion. Open. Lu Chen flew in midair, looking at Noah Moby DK and trying to pull him into the fantasy world. But after a short pause, it failed on the spot. Noah Moby DK's consciousness is in chaos. There's no way for a fantasy. Princess Shirahoshi also came to the side, trying to use her spiritual call to awaken the consciousness of Noah Moby DK, so that it would not attack the Fishman Island. But also because the consciousness of the white whale is still in chaos, there is no response to the call of the soul. Lu Chen looked around, his heart sank. The Fishman Island. Is it really about to be destroyed? Far away, Dakin Ix, who had already fled to the Celestial Dragon's dedicated ship, looked at the Fishman Island full of despair, and finally showed a happy smile on his face. Ha ha ha, let you guys disrespect me. Shit. 99. All dead, all dead. No 1.3 Asia beluga is not only larger than the average Sea King's creature, but also the white bones covered on the body surface are extremely hard. As far as the 5 Sea King's creatures that Shirahoshi summoned, they couldn't even break through the defense of No's beluga whale. The Sea King's creatures, who are invincible in the sea, are in a dilemma like the ants that shake the big tree. Shirahoshi was even more anxious. Lu Chen was on the side, thinking about how to deal with this Noah giant whale. He thought of many ways. But, when the power exceeds a certain level, all intrigues and tricks are useless. Lu Chen's system couldn't help either. He can only help the Murloc King repair the coating first. This is the strongest crisis the Fishman Island is facing now. When everyone couldn't do anything about Noah Moby DK, Luffy stood up with great interest. He squeezed his fist and looked up. Chapter 297 Luffy's Fearless Spirit. What a huge fish, Sanji, let's eat this tonight. He burst out laughing and rushed to the sky from Shirahoshi's arms. The others looked at Luffy in astonishment. Lu Chen was shocked. He originally thought that after watching One Piece, he didn't fully understand the characters in One Piece, but at least he was inseparable. Luffy's personality is that kind of carefree. As long as he decides to do what he wants to do, he will definitely do it for you, even if he sacrifices his life. For example, when Lu Chen first came to Pirate World, he met Luffy for the first time. At the time, he had 2 training plans for Luffy. One is to train until you lose your strength and persist for 100 breaths. One is not to speak for 100 days. Luffy did it all at once. Luffy said that he wanted to lure the Noah beluga whale, which was comparable to a medium-sized island, and he absolutely believed that this guy could do it. But, what did this guy just say? Are you going to eat this Noah beluga whale at night? Pet. Oh to this one. Noah. Beluga. Everyone at the Fishman Island was messy. Lu Chen felt even more absurd. Brother, are you sure you can chew its flesh? And also, are you sure you're not just talking? Now, before anyone notices, you should throw it away as a joke. There are other things we can consider in the long run. Lu Chen opened his mouth. He saw the excited sparkle in Luffy's eyes, and finally closed his mouth. Look, Luffy was ready for the whale. It is good. Sanji, who was lying on the ground, lit a cigarette tremblingly and gave Luffy a thumbs up. Captain, just listen to you, we will eat this big whale tonight. Lu Chen turned his head sharply to look at Sanji on the ground, and his whole body was messy. Shit, Luffy doesn't matter, Sanji is a chef from a serious chef's shop. Can we be more rational? Usually you talk about eating those Sea King's creatures, caught sharks, whales, big octopuses and so on. Lu Chen ate as much as he ate. After all, in their eyes, as long as there are not many of those things, as long as they can beat them, it is nothing to become food. But you are sure that this guy in front of you, can you beat it? Lu Chen said speechlessly. Such a big whale doesn't have such a big shelf. At this time, a green-haired man with 3 knives pinned to his waist. Zoro came out. Seeing everyone gathered together, his eyes lit up. Great, I finally found you. Seeing such a huge Noah beluga whale in the sky, his eyes brightened. Want to eat this guy tonight? It's amazing. I'll get the barbecue grill. Before he finished speaking, he had already picked up the knife and rushed into the forest of the Fishman Island. 3 swords flow, 3,000 troubled winds. 35. Forehead. Lu Chen and the Fishman Island all held their foreheads. I originally thought that this swordsman was very calm, but it seemed that he was not as good as that cook. Lu Chen shouted helplessly. Even if you have the air, but there are not so many seasonings. 99. And such a big whale doesn't taste good at all, can we eat some normal food? At this moment, Chopper riding Usopp jumped out. Chopper raised his hands and cheered. It doesn't matter, Lu Chen sang, I have everything here. Although I usually use them as potions, I split them up. There is absolutely no problem in using it for flavor. You can rest assured. Forehead. Lu Chen stared at the sky speechlessly. It wasn't really what he was worried about. And also, you really don't need to reassure me. Ha ha ha. Tonight, let's eat whales together. Usopp raised his arms and shouted. Eat big whales together. Chopper also raised his arms and shouted. Eat big whales together. Nami and Robin also cheered together. Seeing the enthusiasm of his partners, Lu Chen shook his head helplessly and looked at Luffy. 3 blocks. Drink. A burst of drink. Luffy has already entered the 3rd gear. He turned into a cannonball and shot into the sky. The Noah giant whale fell to the ground, and he didn't know what the specific situation looked like. But Luffy doesn't care about those things as long as he recognizes them. 3 blocks. Bone balloons. He blew into one hand, his huge fist like a hammer that covered the sky and the earth. Boom. 35. This power falls from the sky. A punch smashed the coating in the sky. Boom. Crash, crash, crash. A void appeared in the sky again. The sea water fell from the hollow. Quote question mark question mark question mark. 35. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. And many more. Lu Chen wanted to tell Luffy to be careful. But it was too late. Luffy has reached out and grabbed Nose Beluga's mouth, and pulled it fiercely into the Fishman Island. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The Murloc King was stunned. Although this Nose body is not as big as the whole the Fishman Island, his body is not so small compared to the coating. A hole that Nose whale smashed out of the coating, it's nothing. As long as there is time and someone, they can fix it. Luffy just punched the coating and punched a hole, which was nothing. With a little tinkering, they can be fixed just as well. But, if Nose whale was dragged from outside into the Fishman Island, how big a hole would Nose whale's body 147 punch in the coating? With the coating in that whole state, all the seawater will definitely pour in. That's not a waterfall anymore. For the Fishman Island. That's the scariest flood ever. That is definitely not something that the Murloc King can just call a group of people and rush over to fix it. I'm afraid wait until they fix it. The whole the Fishman Island has been submerged by sea more than half. Destroyer. Destroyer. No wonder the Murloc prophet prophesied that this Straw Hat Boy would be the destroyer of the Fishman Island. He held the steel fork tightly in his hand. The whole person trembled in anger. I should have killed this kid with a fork the first time I saw him. Woohoo. My the Fishman Island, my subjects. 99. The Murloc King was full of grief. He regrets. Very sorry. But the current situation made him have to take everyone to mend the hole in front of him first. After all, there is still a period of time before Luffy wants to capture Nose giant whale. As long as they can quickly fix the hole at this time and stop Luffy in time, the Fishman Island will still be saved. On the dedicated ship of celestial dragons, everyone was stunned. Dakin Ix was also stunned, but the next second, he laughed. Ha ha ha, is this boy in a straw hat a fool? Chapter 298 Tacit Understanding, the son of the devil, the final plan. Not only did he say he wanted to eat this huge strange fish, he even wanted to catch it in the Fishman Island. Does he think that the coating will really protect them intact? 99. How stupid, the subordinate next to him said contemptuously. Dakin Ix laughed with satisfaction. He felt that his original bad mood was as sweet as honey. They just stayed where they were. Dakin X will see the destruction of the Fishman Island with his own eyes. No, how could Luffy do such a superficial thing? Lu Chen, who was originally disappointed by Luffy's behavior, suddenly raised his head. Yes, he and his mates have always been inseparable. It seems that everyone is centered on him, even forgetting the behavior of these people, and they have always gone their own way. But related to each other. When a person makes an action that is incomprehensible to ordinary people, other people don't say it on the surface. But in fact, I understand it in my heart. The true intention of the partner. Like, when Nami was imprisoned by Arlong and wanted to leave but couldn't. Luffy threw the straw hat to Nami and went to the mermaid pirates alone. What was Zoro doing at the time? These two people didn't make any promises, they wanted to kill the Fishman pirates. But Zoro was also there. He blocked the Murloc pirates for Luffy. Allows Luffy to face the boss of the Murloc pirates, Arlong. There is one more place. Robin, who was taken away, was left alone because of the tragic death of his family, and was even called the son of the devil. From childhood to adulthood, as long as she has a relationship with her, she will be hunted down by Marine and CP0. To this end, even Usopp, Zoro, Chopper, Nami, they all invited Robin on board. Robin, who clearly yearns for it, can only refuse for everyone's safety. But Luffy didn't give up. No one ever said anything about catching up with Robin. But everyone caught up with Robin. Luffy's cry, Usopp hits hard. The silent support of the partners finally allowed Robin to speak his mind bravely. Only because. One thing on everyone's mind. Then. They are all doing what they can do, but in the end they get together and produce a mysterious chemical reaction. Quote. I was wrong. Lu Chen took a deep breath. He looked at his companions below, and everyone looked at him eagerly. In the woods, Zoro a Luffy gallops. Cut out countless logs. Chopper took out many herbs from the medicine bag and put them on the ground. Quickly prepare a potion that restores strength. Nami is on the side, holding a weather stick. He stretched out his hand and called out countless dark clouds. Robin's flower fruit is ready to be continued, helping Luffy to quickly pull Nose Giant Whale into the Fishman Island. Usopp watered his horned Kabuto slingshot and made it huge. He reached out and hugged Sanji to the cloth Kabuto, ready to launch Sanji. What can I do? Seeing that everyone was preparing for what he should do, Lu Chen couldn't help but ask himself. To be frank, as a trainer on board, as a person with a system, as a traveler who has watched One Piece, Lu Chen should be the person who knows how to solve the situation at hand. But he is lost now. There are so many things he can use. Different from others. As long as it is a person who has made a plan in the system, the opponent will gain strength after completing the training plan, and he will also gain that strength. So, how many people has he trained so far? Not to mention the people in the Straw Hat Pirates. Ace, Buggy the Clown, the Empress, Marco, Kid, and even the crew of Kid's boat. The abilities he possesses are innumerable. Unlike others who developed an ability to the ultimate, Lu Chen completely relies on the stacking of abilities. Just defeated the opponent, but it was just too much ability that made him confused now. After all, it seems that every ability can be used. It seems that every ability can play a huge role at this time, and complete the cooperation of partners. But Lu Chen knew, these partners who look at themselves must not be looking forward to the abilities they have acquired from others. What he is looking for is himself. Call. A gust of wind blew by. Lu Chen opened his eyes. He seemed to understand, he understood what his companions needed him to do. He stood up abruptly. The hands that had just taken off were still trembling slightly. But Lu Chen is not at all confused now. He opened his eyes. Kamui. Whoosh. He appeared in front of the huge Noa Beluga whale. The coating in front of him vibrated slightly. This is the flow of water. Through Sharingan, Lu Chen can even see every amplitude of the coating vibration. Backquote. It turns out that the plan you were thinking of is actually like this. No, it is not a plan at all, because it was never discussed in advance. Quote. Lu Chen shook his head helplessly and opened his eyes. This is probably the tacit understanding of being a partner. Whoosh. The black space enlarged before his eyes. Boom, boom, boom. The space in front of him was distorted. Lu Chen felt like he might be crazy. It was the first time he tried to open Kamui's space with his eyes. But the next thing to do, the one-eyed Kamui, is absolutely impossible to do. Bring it on. Lu Chen took a deep breath and let it out. He felt the blood all over his body boiling. Raise your hand. Susa. Can be. The blue giant appeared in an instant. Hands open. A series of blood dripped from Lu Chen's eyes. Kamui. A roar. In front of the blue Susano, a huge black storm suddenly appeared. Empty. Have you Jiao? The fast-moving air made a screeching sound. Lu Chen's eyes have been soaked with blood. When he felt no pain at all. Facing the nose giant whale that was getting closer and closer, like a mountain. Lu Chen roared. Come on. It is good. Everyone should drink in unison. Everyone's eyes were full of solemnity, and everyone's mouth was filled with confident smiles. It seems that as long as the partners are together, there is nothing that cannot be solved. Enhanced. Blue wave ball. Uniform. Filling Sanji's mouth full of lambles, Chopper swallowed one without hesitation. Runaway form. Boom. The terrifying elk giant that once appeared on Law Enforcement Island reappeared in everyone's eyes. Chopper roared and strode towards Luffy. Come on. 99. Sanji grabbed his neck and swallowed the pill. The vast force rushed into the body. He laughed. Chapter 299 Success, Fishing Plan. Usopp. He let out a roar, and Usopp behind him reacted immediately. He pulled the slingshot without hesitation, aiming Sanji in the sky, a little in front of Susanoo. Come on. Sanji's clothes were rolled up by the power of the side. The slingshot was let go with a swish. A black shadow quickly flashed across the sky, and forces condensed on Sanji's body again. Sanji knows. The reason why he can move now is entirely because he ate the blue wave ball given by Chopper. His body didn't actually recover. If he still uses force forcibly, it may be within the next month. He couldn't even lift his arms. But, how could he not use it? With a pause in his eyes, he looked into the air. Night Guy, a roar. A dark-blooded long dragon instantly appeared in the air. And this moment, Luffy and the others also pulled the huge Noah Beluga whale near the coating of the Fishman Island. Seeing that Noah Beluga is about to come into contact with the Fishman Island coating. When the Fishman Island was about to fall into a doomed crisis, Chen gave a light drink. The space vortex in front of him became bigger again. Get bigger, until the coating in front of you is covered. Now, the Fishman Island, coating, the sea. A strange balance emerges between the three. They are obviously in unused spaces, but the relationship between them is very harmonious, as if nothing has changed. Do not. There are still changes. Nose Beluga whale moves slowly from the sea. Boom. It goes through a layer of coating. The coating swayed slowly like bubbles. But not broken. What's going on here? Tell me what's going on here. Dakin X on the Celestial Dragons watched this scene in shock. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Take a closer look. It is true. The huge Noah Beluga whale is slowly passing through the coating of the Fishman Island. It's as simple as a person walking through a door. This situation made Dakin X tremble with anger, because it was completely different from the scene he imagined Vice Admiral was going to happen. Quick, tell me, what the hell is going on here? The subordinate who has become a domestic slave next to him kept his mouth shut, his face blank. He didn't know why either. At this time, another subordinate looked at the crowd and did not speak, and his courage suddenly grew. He hurriedly approached and said, Lord Dakin, I think it should be the red-eyed pirate, that pair of eyes caused it. I looked, and his eyes were capable of distorting space. 35. So, now he must have distorted the space between the coatings. Although that part of the coating seems to be in the original place, it has actually moved to another space. After speaking, he felt a little proud in his heart. He even took a cryptic glance at the trap next to him who became a servant of celestial dragons. He also seemed to see that he was going to be the servant of the celestial dragons. Everything in the future is under your feet. Who knew that the friend who became the slave looked at him with sympathy? No, it should be it. As if it were a dying wild dog on the side of the road. How dare this guy look down on himself? This subordinate was about to get angry when a gunshot rang out in front of him, and the angry expression on his face solidified. The body fell heavily to the ground. Damn, I already knew about this, do I still need you to tell me? Dakin X put the gun back into his waist in disdain, and looked down at the bottom of the Fishman Island. Now, Nose Beluga whale has entered the Fishman Island. Without the buoyancy of sea water, Nose Beluga whale has a terrifying number just under its own weight. And Robin and Luffy also became exhausted in an instant. Just when they were about to be caught off guard, a startled scream rang out in the forest. Come! A green-haired swordsman appeared in midair. ACBD. Roronoa Zoro. The three knives in his hand emitted a series of knife chi, and the huge, very smooth logs were neatly arranged on the ground like soldiers. Roar. The huge elk monster also came nearby. He stretched out his huge hands and grabbed the Noah giant whale in front of him. A tooth. Roar. Come on. A roar. Everyone worked hard. Like Yugong moving mountains, he slowly moved Nose giant whale into the Fishman Island. But, not enough. At this time, Sanji in the sky finally fell over Nose Beluga whale. On top of the black suit, the power of dark blood is entwined. An extremely ferocious dragon head enveloped his whole body, completely releasing the power of his entire being. At this time, Sanji neatly arranged the bow tie. Take out a new cigarette and light it. Take a deep breath. The gray smoke floated out of his mouth, and before it condensed and formed, it was dispersed by the power condensed around. Sanji, Chopper, who transformed into a monster elk giant, let out a roar that was buzzing and muffled. Sanji tossed the cigarette away. Step your feet in the air. The whole person rushed towards Noah brazenly. Give me. Get in. 35. Boom. Nose Beluga was kicked, and the vast power was transmitted to Noah's body, allowing it to be successfully mounted on the driftwood. Click. Because this power is too great. Noah white whale was defended by the white bones in the kick. At this moment, there was a click, and a huge bone crack spread from the middle. Even a huge bone fragment fell. But Sanji is no longer in sight. In one day, use the power of Night Guy, twice in a row, albeit with Chopper's special Rambo. But Sanji's body couldn't hold it. The moment Noah Moby DK successfully climbed onto the log, his eyes turned white and he fainted instantly. But at the moment, Zoro has also come to Noah's side. He joined the act of catching fish together. Boom. Boom. With everyone's efforts, little by little, Noah Moby DK finally entered the forest clearing next to the Fishman Island. The Noah Beluga at this moment looks bigger and more shocking than when it was buried on the side of the Fishman Island as a sunken ship. Who would have thought that this guy was actually alive? Now, tightly it was breathing in a coma, and a small hurricane blew on the ground. Torrential rain. Nami, who has been waiting for a long time, opens the weather bar. The dark clouds in the sky will slam down the torrential rain that has been brewing for a long time. But it can only infiltrate half of the body of the beluga whale. Chen closed his eyes. 2 lines of bright red blood flowed out of his eyes, like 2 tears of blood. This is caused by his overloaded use of Sharingan. Sharingan is still strong after all. The side effects are also powerful. Chapter 300 The Fishman Island crisis is over. Zoro sat on the ground, panting slightly. Chopper returned from the giant elk form to his normal form, although after 2 years of growth, he transformed into the giant elk form. He won't lose his mind, run wild, or faint like before. It has even been able to freely control the giant elk form for more than 10 minutes. But, elk giant form is still the most energy-consuming and mental state for Chopper. After he changed into the original. But he deliberately let himself fall in Sanji's direction. Sanji. With a crying voice, Chopper took out a lot of potions from the treasure bag and carefully stuffed it into Sanji's mouth. Probably only Usopp is the busiest here. While he was going to take care of Robin, he also maintained the order around the Fishman Island to prevent those pirates from taking the opportunity to come and deal with the Straw Hat Pirates. Shirahoshi. Chen shouted loudly. Shirahoshi, the princess of the Fishman Island, naturally knew what they wanted to do, and without hesitation, he swung his tail and rushed to No's side. This time, the 2 of them were very close. Shirahoshi put his palm directly on No's beluga whale, as a Poseidon that can communicate with all marine creatures. Master their emotions. Soothe their unease. Make the other party follow your orders. This power is released slowly. After a while, Shirahoshi opened his eyes with regret and looked at the waiting pirates. Yes, sorry, no. 35. Shirahoshi was so anxious that he burst into tears. No's power is so powerful that I have no way to touch his heart at all. Sorry, what? A hint of surprise flashed across the faces of the Straw Hat Pirates. They didn't even think about it. Everything has been completed, and in the end it was blocked at this step. Now, Noah Moby DK is in the Fishman Island. If it wakes up, this guy will turn over quietly and it will have a huge impact on the entire the Fishman Island. But there is no way. No one thought that the power of Noah Moby DK would be so huge that it could even block Shirahoshi's spiritual comfort. Everyone turned to look at Chen. His Sharingan seems to be able to directly enter the other party's spiritual world. But, with blood and tears, Chen shook his head at everyone. Bros. My eyes are bleeding. How to do? Everyone looked at each other. Oh ho ho ho, I seem to hear someone need me. Fishman in the sky. A figure with only bones left appeared. He is the King of Souls, Brook. Wearing a small black dress and wearing magic shields one after another, he stepped on the flying magic and crossed the sky. He just helped the Fishman King to deal with the coating on the sky, and there were some guys who took the opportunity to seize the pirate ship and robbed and committed crimes on the street. All long overdue. He bowed gracefully. Friends, the King of Souls, serve you. Although Chen can't see it. But he also has the telepathic power of Kamui space. He could still see the other side's gesture. Brook's appearance shocked his heart and his eyes lit up. Although his eyes were full of blood and tears, I don't know how his eyes lit up. Anyway, Chen's evaluation of Brook's appearance is pretend to ultimate. Gee, the next time he needs to play and pretend, he will use it too. Everyone's eyes lit up. Yup. In terms of communication between spirit and soul, who can compare to the owner of Wonkwon fruit? Soul King Brook. After all, he now has a soul left. Oh hoa hoa. Brook quickly ran to Shirahoshi's side in the sky. He stretched out a hand and gently pulled one of Princess Shirahoshi's fingers. Because he could only hold one finger. Miss Shirahoshi, close your eyes with me, I'm going to lead your soul into another world. Brook said. An incomparably powerful soul power emanated from his body. This power escaping all around, unexpectedly carried the chill in the yellow spring. The surrounding grass was covered with a layer of cold frost. Shirahoshi closed his eyes nervously, and guided Brook's soul, as if he had walked through a long, dark, desolate path. Far, she heard waves, voices. And also punch sound. Shirahoshi looked around, and she saw a giant white whale fighting several ferocious sea kings on a rough sea. And on top of its head, there is a blue-scaled mermaid king, holding a golden steel fork in his hand. 0 katakana middle dot for flowers. Turn out to be, is this No's past? Shirahoshi is mentally shocked. She understood No's pain. A wave roared past. The whole world has become much quieter. The Fishman Island has regained its tranquility. Originally damaged coating. With the help of the Murloc King and everyone, everything has been repaired. As for the seawater pouring onto the Fishman Island, when things are over later, there will naturally be fishmen to clean it up. Now, everyone just wanted to lie down and take a good rest. Stun the mermaid pirate. 100/100ths. The Murloc King has completed the training and obtained the power of Thor. 0. When Chen heard the voice in his head tilted slightly. He looked to the side. Through the gray space world, he saw the Fish King on the streets of the Fishman Island. There was a piece of Fishman pirates lying around, and they were holding things that others had snatched from them. Now, the whole body of the Murloc King was shrouded in blazing blue electric light, and the original eye of thunder and lightning became more intense. His eyes seemed to be all white. But if you look carefully, you can find that it is the energy condensed by lightning. Even in Kamui's gray-white space, the light was terrifyingly intense. Dakin Ix above the sky feels very bad. He tried his best to destroy the Fishman Island, and wanted to kill the black pirate with red eyes. But even if he used the privilege, awakened the legendary ship of salvation, Noah, and even brought the ancient Noah alive. That's it. Although there is damage to the opponent, the damage is not very large. Is this the only majesty of celestial dragons? Dakin Ix was so angry that his hands trembled, and he held the scepter in his hand tightly. The house slave on the side carefully kept away from Dakin Ix. The injury on his head hasn't healed yet, and he doesn't want to be slapped on the head by the other party at this time. Just when he carefully avoided it, he didn't know who stuck out a foot behind him. He kicked his asterisk hard. Quote exclamation mark quote. Before the house slave could react, the whole person rushed out, and even panicked, he slammed into the back of Dakin Ix.